Chapter 12:21. Qixin leaned against the table in the meeting room and crossed his arms in front of his chest. My mother is beautiful at any time, but I've seen her cry once and it's a terrible sight. So I don't intend to see it a second time. Qixin chuckled, looking as though he could not do anything about his own mother. It was hard to tell if he was talking about his mother or his daughter. He rubbed his head and said, "You should keep your daughter for yourself. I don't like her being dirty." "Let's wait and see." Cole laughed coldly. He had been too confident in Qixin in the past and thought that he had him firmly in his hands. He did not expect Agu to cry so much that he was stunned. Back then, he had been as heartless to Agu as he had been to Agu. Now he had turned around and treated her just as heartless. Tiske, in terms of heartless nature, he was more like his son. Once Agu set off to search for the heart of the desert, Qixin used his status as the stray beast young master to order the stray beasts to snatch females from Saint Nazir. It was nothing new for stray beasts to snatch females. Moreover, they were snatching from Saint Nazir. Those stray beasts thought that Qixin had fallen in love with a certain female but was unwilling to share it with others, or that the other party had not agreed to it. That was why he had the intention to snatch her. Even though Cole had given the order not to touch the 3 tribes of Saint Nazir, Sadr and Zacharias as well as the 16 tribes that had just submitted to Sadr, but snatching the wife of the messenger's son from Saint Nazir should at most be considered a family matter, right? The stray beasts thought about how much Cole doted on Qixin and how much the messenger treasured Qixin. No one would blame them for snatching a female for him. So they treated it as a way of coaxing the young master and snatched the female from Saint Nazir without a second word. But who knew that when they reached Saint Nazir, there was only one female at home? The famous 16 valued females were nowhere to be seen. Left with no choice, they could only capture that half-orc. Once Qixin saw the female he captured, he wrapped her in a beast-skin bag and carried her away without a second word. At that time, Cole was preparing a cart full of prey to deliver to Fedatin City and coincidentally met Gu Mengmeng. Halfway through his journey, he was hindered by the news from the spies planted in the various tribes. Saint Nazir was attacked by stray beasts and all the females in the tribe were snatched. Sadr was attacked by stray beasts and Huda and Jianghu were nowhere to be found. Zacharias was attacked by stray beasts. Qixin was heavily injured and on the verge of death. When Cole received these 3 pieces of news, he was dumbfounded. Why would stray beasts do such a thing? Since it happened at the same time, it was clear that someone was controlling it. Who could set up such a trap and turn the tables on him? Leah? It must be Leah. Cole quickly calmed down and analyzed the situation. All 3 things could not be true. Leah would not do meaningless things. The female of Saint Nazir, the missing Huda and Jianghu, as well as the severely injured Qixin. Cole only took a second to confirm that Lee's target was Qixin. The reason was simple. Cole had been using Qixin to threaten Gu Mengmeng, forcing her to not dare to act rashly. The easiest way to resolve this situation was to kill Qixin. As long as Qixin was dead, he would no longer have any leverage to threaten Gu Mengmeng. And Agu would definitely blame it on him for the stray beast's actions, right? He was not afraid that Gu Mengmeng would hate him, but he did not want to be the scapegoat. Chapter 12:22. Our little Shin has grown fangs and claws, but did I ever teach you? In front of an enemy you can't defeat, it's best to remain docile. Cole strangled Qixuan's neck with a sinister smile. Qixin did not resist and just allowed him to strangle him. He even looked at Cole with an extremely provocative gaze. Cole released Qixin a second before he breathed his last. You are certain that I won't kill you, so you want to use this against me? Qixin sat on the ground, panting heavily. After a long while he finally lifted his eyes. He was clearly the pathetic one, but he was smiling victoriously. I wasn't sure at first, but now I'm sure. You can't kill me. Qixin said, I know that the reason you are holding me in your hands is not to save your life. You want to use my blood to taint my mother's soul and turn her into someone like you. Every time you use me to force my mother, the outcome you are hoping for is not for her to back down, but for her to go crazy. You want her to give up on me and even kill me personally so that she won't be forced to do those things she doesn't want to do. If my mother doesn't do it, everything you do will be meaningless. Qixin stood up shakily with his hands on the table. He wiped the blood off the corner of his lips. What's the point of always bullying a female? Why don't you change your opponent and let me play with you? Cole chuckled. He narrowed his eyes and said, Little Shin, do you think that death is the most painful thing in this world? Tiske, how did I raise such a naive child? Qi Shen also chuckled and replied, "Indeed, you have many ways to torture people. But I am different from my mother. My mother cares about too many people. That's why she is full of loopholes for you to exploit. As for me, other than my mother, I don't care about anyone including myself, and you don't have the ability to harm my mother. So in front of you I have no weaknesses. This time I have disrupted your plan to disgust my mother. Consider it a declaration of war. In the future there will be frequent disruptions like this. I am just informing you in advance. After all, I am indebted to you for taking care of me for so long. Alright, let's wait and see." With that, Cole turned to leave. "Wait," Qi Shen called out. He casually threw the beast skin bag at the side in a parabola to Cole. "Take your trash away." Cole did not reject her. He weighed the beast skin bag with Maya in it and smiled helplessly. "Little Shen, you can't beat me. Do you know why?" Qi Shen did not reply. He only saw Cole raise his hand high up and throw the beast skin bag heavily onto the ground. A sorrowful wail accompanied by the thick stench of blood spread out. Cole smiled contemptuously as he wiped the blood stains on his fingers. He looked up at Qi Shen and said, "Because you are not ruthless enough and you are not ruthless enough. You can obviously get rid of the obstacles directly, so why bring them back?" With that, Cole patted Qishuan's shoulder lightly and said, "But you are after all a little brat that I taught myself. Let me see how sharp your fangs and claws are. Don't make me feel too bored, okay?" Ah. With that, Cole walked out without looking back. Chapter 12:23. Was he not ruthless enough? Compared to Cole, who could throw a pregnant female to death without batting an eyelid, he was indeed too soft-hearted. To fight against Cole, kindness was the most important thing. But that mother of his, she could not do anything insane. "Let me do the dirty work, mother, you. Just don't cry so miserably again." Qi Shen sighed and returned to the meeting hall of the fake village. He crossed his arms on the table and supported his chin with the back of his hand. He stared at the direction of the cave with an expressionless face. He really did not look like a 2-year-old child like this. On the other side, when Gu Mingming finally reached Sauter, there were already 70 to 80 lone wolf beasts gathered around her. And the wolf beasts did not call Gu Mingming the Great Messenger, but Queen. Gu Mingming did not mind this, because the people of the Snake King Valley also did not call her the Great Messenger, but called her Saintess. But hearing Queen, Gu Mingming got addicted to acting, and would lie on Elvis seductively, blinking her eyes and asking, "Mighty King, is your concubine beautiful?" Elvis's face and ears would always turn red from her teasing. Looking at her delicate and alluring look, he could not wait to tear her apart and eat her up. But she just had to run away after teasing him, never taking responsibility. He gritted his teeth but could not do anything to her. Her eyes were bright and beautiful, and the corners of his lips would automatically rise. In this lifetime he had fallen into her hands. Other than spoiling her, there was nothing else he could do. After hiding for almost 2 months, Huda and Jiaoyu could finally see the light of day again. They stood at the door waiting for Gu Mingming, their smiles brighter than the sun. Seeing Gu Mingming from afar, they ran over happily, but before they reached her they heard Elvis say, "Don't hug my female." Then the 2 little ones stopped in front of Gu Mingming, unable to move even half a step. "Mother?" Jiaoyu pouted, feeling extremely wronged. "Mother, why am I a wolf? I want to be a fox." Sobs, sobs, sobs. "I want to be a fox." Gu Mingming glared at Elvis and said, "I warned you before, don't bully my sons." Elvis sighed. No matter how old these 4 annoying fellows were, Gu Mingming would always stand on their side regardless of whether they were right or wrong. Elvis face-bombed and said, "I'm just afraid that they'll crash into you too fiercely. Hug me if you want, I won't stop you, alright? Don't be angry, be good." Gu Mingming walked forward and held her 2 sons' arms with 1 arm each. Actually, she wanted to hug his neck, but, "You guys seem to have grown taller again? I'm only up to your shoulders now. What a blow to my pride. You have to raise your head when scolding your son. You don't have the bearing of a mother at all." Jiaoyu playfully rested his head on Gu Mingming's shoulder and said, "No way, no matter when we talk to Mummy we always lower our heads. Mummy is so imposing. Besides, we're so obedient. As long as you glare at us, we'll immediately restrain ourselves. Why would Mother need to get angry and scold us? You can't bear to do that, can you? Only you know how to talk." Gu Mingming pinched Jiaoyu's handsome face, feeling extremely satisfied. A son with a sweet mouth is really lovable." Gu Mingming smiled until her eyes squinted. She hugged her 2 sons on each side and entered Sauter. Chapter 12:24. You said Qixin sent a message for the two of you to hide? Gu Mingming sat in the meeting room and asked. Ada nodded. Yeah, he also told us to pretend to have been attacked by stray beasts. He said we can only come out when mother is back. Gu Mingming completely did not understand what Qixin was up to. She turned to look at Jiaoyu. So you didn't ask anything and just hid obediently? Jiaoyu nodded. He is our biological brother. If he wants us to hide, we will. I don't think second brother would play a prank for no reason. Since he did not explain, it means now is not the time for us to know the details. So we just have to do as he says. The next time we meet, he will definitely give us an explanation. Of course, if he is really so bored to play a prank on us, he probably meant that he would punish him twice as much. Jiaoyu looked like an innocent angel, but he was probably the most black-bellied of the four little ones. Gu Mingming tilted her head at Leah. Do you know what Qixin is up to? Leah chuckled. He tapped Gu Mingming's little nose. If you want to know, why don't we go to Zacharias and ask directly? Let's not. Jiaoyu hugged Gu Mingming's arm with a bitter expression. Mother, how long has it been since I last saw you? You just arrived and you want to leave? There are no wells in Zacharias. It is going to be the dry season soon. You will suffer if you go there. Stay in Solder until the dry season is over. Hada was calm, but he also missed Gu Mingming. Hence he agreed. Yes, mother-in-law often talks about mother. Since you are here, you should at least meet her, right? Joseph and his brothers are growing up very well. They are very cute and are godsons after all. If you don't show up soon, they might forget about you. Speaking of Joseph, Gu Mingming felt a chill. Damn it. Just the thought of Sandy asking her to carry that little cub away and raise him as a child husband made her hair stand on end. Harming an infant in his swaddling clothes. Damn Sandy. I treat you as my best friend, but you treat me as a pervert. Sighing, Gu Mingming nodded and said, It just so happens that your beast father has just become a beast king and there should be many wolf beasts joining our tribe during this period. You two take advantage of this dry season to deal with this matter. If there's anything you need help with, look for your father. Elvis pulled Gu Mingming away from Hada and Jiaoyu into his arms, playing with her hair as he said, I am indeed the leader of Saint Nazir, but this is Solder. Hada is the leader, why should I help him handle his official duties? He is your son, Gu Mingming said matter-of-factly. Elvis chuckled. If a father has to do everything for his son, then ask them to look for Peter. Peter is my father. Gu Mingming was exasperated. She elbowed Elvis and said, You are the Beast King. With great power comes great responsibility. Do you understand? Capable people do more work. What's wrong with helping your son? Elvis laughed. It's not impossible to help them, but how are you going to thank me? Thank me for what? Gu Mingming could clearly see the words in Elvis's eyes. Her face burned. Damn it, she actually understood what he was hinting at. Chapter 12:25. There's no need, we can handle it ourselves. Jiaoyu took a step forward and said with his head held high, Also, respected mighty beast king, I don't like people threatening my mother, even if it's just flirting. Yes, because of Cole and Qixuan's incident, the four young ones were now especially sensitive to others using them to control Gu Mingming. It was like a minefield marked with skulls, anyone who entered would be blown to death. Elvis was just flirting with Gu Mingming and did not think too much about it. But Jiaoyu's rise to the level of a threat still made Elvis a little unhappy. But the worst feeling in this world was when you clearly had the ability to skin him alive, but you could not even touch a single finger of him. That's for the best. Elvis laughed coldly and said, I also don't wish for my sons to be useless and rely on their parents' status to survive in the beast world. With that he carried Gu Mingming and left. Jiaoyu and Hada did not chase after them. They knew very well that they were already adult orcs. Under normal circumstances, orcs at their age would already be out on their own and would no longer have any connection with their mother's family. They were independent individuals and had to be responsible for their own lives and future. However, because Gu Mingming was different from other females, the motherly love and gentleness she gave to the four brothers was like a pair of large, warm hands protecting them, making them unwilling to abandon her and run away to a faraway place. So they chose to wait at a place where their mother would definitely return. When their mother returned, they could once again see her gentle smile, support them regardless of right or wrong, and protect them regardless of the cost. But they had to know when to stop. They could no longer act coquettishly around their mother like when they were young. So when Elvis carried Gu Mingming away, They knew they could not chase after them because they were no longer cubs living under their parents' protection. They were now strong sons who had to support their mother and not little munchkins who could only complain to their mother after being bullied by Elvis and Leah. After Elvis became the Wolf King, there was one thing that Gu Mengmeng could not get used to. That was to follow a pack of wolves wherever she went. How should she put it? She felt like she was walking her dog without a leash and felt extremely uneasy. After all, the husky's nickname was gone. Elvis pinched Gu Mengmeng's little face and pulled her face towards him. He said sternly, "I won't allow another wolf to appear in our family. They don't have the guts to be beast pets in the Wolf King's house, so you don't have to look. If you like my beast form, I can transform for you." Gu Mengmeng facepalmed, speechless. After Elvis became a beast king, his domineering attributes increased a little too quickly. In the past he had never been able to speak, but now he could just open his mouth. It was as if the demeanor of the first partner had been completely discarded. Although this was pretty good and Gu Mengmeng enjoyed Elvis's possessiveness towards her, but could he not treat her like a pervert? It was one thing to guard against beastmen, but now they were even guarding against wild beasts? Gu Mengmeng placed her hands on Elvis's shoulders and smiled. "Hubby, you are the mighty Wolf King. With a partner like you, why would I fancy other wolves? Am I right?" Chapter 12:26. It was Gu Mengmeng's habit to visit Sandy the moment she arrived at Sauter. This was already a custom. Elvis had a pack of wolves with him and it was not convenient for him to go to Sandy's house. Hence, he could only hand Gu Mengmeng over to Leah while he took the opportunity to settle some issues that the Wolf King had to deal with. At the border of Sandy's territory, Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng and said, "Don't chat with Sandy for too long and don't bring back her little leopard cubs, MMM?" Gu Mengmeng smiled and nodded. Then she hugged Elvis's neck and kissed him. "Go and settle the wolf pack. I will return to the stone castle after talking to Sandy for a while." Elvis tightened his grip on Gu Mengmeng and rubbed his chin against her neck. "If anything happens, just hammer my mark and I will rush over immediately." Gu Mengmeng smiled. "Have you forgotten? I'm also a beast king. No matter how strong you are still my female. I can't help but worry." Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng's brow again. "Be good. All right, I got it." If Gu Mengmeng had not agreed, Elvis would have spent the whole day with her. She would not have to visit Sandy and he would not have to settle his work. He was still willing to part with her, but Elvis still handed her over to Leah. "Take care of her." "Yes, mighty Wolf King." Leah replied teasingly before carrying Gu Mengmeng back to Sandy's house. This was the advantage of being a witch doctor. He could ignore all territorial boundaries. Sandy could not sit still the moment she heard that Gu Mengmeng was back. She paced around the door several times. If not for Colin stopping her, saying that Gu Mengmeng was the messenger of the beast deity and that she must have things to settle in Sauter first, and that she would only be a burden if she went, Sandy would have rushed into the meeting room to snatch her away. Now that she saw Gu Mengmeng, she could no longer hold back her smile. It was as radiant and warm as the spring breeze in March. Gu Mengmeng jumped down from Lee's arms and hugged Sandy. Even though both of them were mothers, they were still full of youthful spirit. They held each other's hands and giggled foolishly. Even though they had so many things to say to each other, they could only condense into one sentence, "I missed you so much." On one side, Gu Mengmeng and Sandy were lovey-dovey together, while on the other side, Elvis was sitting on a huge rock on an empty plot of land outside Sauter. He looked lazy and devilish, his gaze as calm as the deep night sky, boundless and boundless. There were no fluctuations of emotions on his nonchalant face, only the slight frown on his face indicated that he was feeling impatient. There were close to 100 orcs standing on the empty ground and all of them were single wolf beasts. They were all attracted by the Beast King. Elvis could even feel that there were some wolf beasts that had already mated and were trying to convince their partners to follow them to Sauter to seek shelter from Elvis. "Lord Wolf King, please consider this seriously. We should have our own territory. With your current status, how can you live with other races?" One of the wolf beasts said. Yes, the first problem Elvis had to face was the issue of the territory of the tribe. In the past, there was only one beast king in the beast world and that was Snake. So when a new beast king was born, Snake's actions became the basis and standard to be followed. Snake had a Snake King Valley and all the snake beasts lived in the valley, receiving the protection of the Beast King. So now they felt that the wolf tribe should also have their own territory. Could be called Wolf King Valley or Wolf King Mountain. Chapter 12:27. The wolf beast's thoughts were very simple. Why did the Snake King's snake have his own territory while their esteemed Wolf King did not? But they neglected a very important point, and that was that Snake did not have a partner. And when Snake first went to the Snake King Valley, it was not the Snake King Valley. It was just a place where Snake wandered around in the beast world out of boredom. When he reached there, he was tired and the weather there was just right. To Snake, the mountains in the beast world were no different, so he stayed there because he was too lazy to move his nest. Later on, the snake beasts were attracted by the Beast King and slowly gathered there, forming the Snake King Valley. Snake had never said that others were not allowed to step into the Snake King Valley. It was just that his reputation was too great. Other than the snake beasts, no one dared to go near him. After many generations, that place slowly became a forbidden area in the beast world and no one dared to step in again. But Elvis's situation was different. He had Gu Mingming by his side. Even though the thousands of mountains in the beast world were all the same to him, as long as these sceneries were in Gu Mingming's eyes, he would not use a valley or a mountain to block her footsteps. He wanted to be the Beast King so that his Xiaoming could do whatever she wanted and not do whatever she wanted. If Gu Mingming was coerced by this Beast King status, wouldn't that be putting the cart before the horse? Saint Nazir had their home. That cave where he and Leah could hold her hand and walk in together had a different meaning because Gu Mingming would always hold his and Li's hands at the entrance. So no matter how busy he was, Xiaoming would always make a trip back to Saint Nazir every year. She said that it was a homecoming. Xiaoming even said that she wanted to find green bricks and boulders in the Mecca desert to build a dragon and to sell human meat bun. He promised her, so he had to make it a reality one day. There was a patch of grapevines in the stray beast camp and Xiaoming liked those grapes very much. Every year during the rainy season he would pluck grapes for Xiaoming to use to brew wine. Although it was troublesome for Leah to get drunk, it was quite interesting to see the sly fox become as dumb as a dog after getting drunk. He still had many places to accompany Xiaoming to see. How could he become complacent just because of a Beast King status? Raising his eyes, Elvis looked at the chattering wolf beasts in front of him. His gaze turned cold and he exuded an aura of authority without being angry. Everyone kept their mouths shut and looked at Elvis's expression carefully. Elvis gently cupped the area in front of his earlobe and said, "Because Snake stayed there, that place is called the Snake King Valley. Not because it's the Snake King Valley so Snake has to stay there, understand?" The wolf beast felt that Elvis's words were a little tongue-twisting. He lowered his head and repeated it 2 to 3 times in his heart before he could barely understand. He then nodded his head. Elvis continued, "There's one more thing that I don't think you guys have figured out." His thin lips curled up with bloodthirstiness and coldness. Elvis replied without a trace of warmth in his gaze, "You guys needed me, so you took the initiative to come over. In my eyes, all of you are just ants not worth mentioning. So, don't try to interfere with me. Hey, if any of you disturb my female and make her feel uncomfortable, I don't mind treating all of you as food." Chapter 12:28. With that, Elvis's gaze swept across everyone's faces coldly. Did he finally recognize his own status? Did he still think that gathering by the Beast King's side was like joining a new tribe, that as long as he was strong enough, he could make requests without fear in front of the tribe leader? Wishful thinking. Elvis leaped off the huge rock and walked past the wolf beast. His steps were slow and unrestrained as he walked nonchalantly. As he walked, he said, "Today is the first day I, the Beast King, have met all of you, so I have generously used up all my patience. There will not be another chance to talk like this in the future, so all of you better behave yourselves." Not wanting to waste any more time, Elvis's gaze was locked onto a point. That was the direction of Sandy's house. He had already wasted enough time here, and now he just wanted to hug Gu Mingming and give her a kiss. He walked faster and faster like the wind. When he reached the boundary of Sandy's territory, he saw Gu Mingming and Sandy sitting at the door talking. Sauter was not like Saint Nazir, and Sandy's territory was only a few dozen meters in front of the door. This was already because of her special relationship with Gu Mingming and the special care given by the new leader, Huda, so they received preferential treatment. Elvis had just walked closer when he saw Gu Mingming turn around and meet his eyes accurately. She then smiled at him with curved eyebrows. This smile dazzled Elvis's eyes. His previous devilish aura disappeared completely in an instant, and the corners of his lips curled up together with her smile. It was warm and radiant, completely unlike the Beast King who killed decisively just a moment ago. "Sandy, can I call Elvis over?" Gu Mingming held Sandy's little hand and asked. Sandy scrunched her nose and said, "Do you still have to treat me like an outsider?" Since when did your family come to my place and not enter whenever they want? Gu Mingming smiled sweetly and said, we might be familiar, but we still have to show the necessary respect. Sandy pouted and pinched Gu Mingming's waist. Pretentious. Sandy did not use too much force, so it did not hurt at all. Instead it tickled. Gu Mingming laughed and dodged. So can I or not? Okay, hurry up and invite your Wolf King in. Sandy said with a smile, I'll explain everything to you once and for all. In the future, if you want to look for me, just come directly. You can bring whoever you want. You don't have to ask me to give permission one by one. It's a waste of my saliva. It's very troublesome. Gu Mingming glanced at Bode, who was standing at the side as if he was being punished, and said, what kind of first partner are you? Didn't you hear my Sandy say she was thirsty? Aren't you going to pour some water? Bode was very aggrieved, but he did not dare to resist. He could only obediently pour the water. Gu Mingming then waved at Elvis. Chapter 12:29. Elvis chuckled and kissed her deeply on the lips. My queen, if you say that, I won't be able to hold myself back, or do you want to return to the stone castle now? Gu Mingming pushed Elvis lightly and said, it's only afternoon, I want to stay here and have dinner with Sandy today. What about me? Elvis's face was full of resentment. Gu Mingming replied, of course you are staying to eat with us. Oriton and Colin have already gone hunting. With their strength, are you still afraid that there won't be enough prey to eat? But I want to eat you more. Elvis rubbed his face against her neck, full of affection. Gu Mingming blushed. Tieske Sandy is here. Hey, she's the one who helped us take care of Huda and his brothers. Do you think she would think that nothing happened between us? Gu Mingming blushed even more. Knowing was one thing, but seeing was another, alright? Just like the three little leopards playing not far away. Their parents were standing in front of Gu Mingming, but she did not want to know the entire process of them giving birth to the leopards. That would be really awkward. If you talk nonsense again, I won't keep you for dinner. You can go home and eat by yourself. Elvis knew that Gu Mingming would really get angry if he continued teasing her. He had already seen her shy look, which she had not seen for a long time, so he stopped while he was ahead. He pinched Gu Mingming's little nose and said, all right, I won't say anything. Stop struggling and sit in my arms. The floor is cold. Gu Mingming saw that Elvis had stopped teasing her, so she took a step back and stopped struggling. After all, she liked Elvis's embrace very much. Leaning in his embrace made her feel very secure and comfortable. Perhaps it was because she was used to him hugging her, but when he wasn't around she felt a little lost and uneasy. Now that his body heat surrounded her again, she felt very comfortable. Sandy covered her mouth and smiled. She hoped more than anyone else to see Gu Mingming, Elvis and Leah loving each other. As long as Gu Mingming could be happy, she would also feel very happy. Pulling Gu Mingming's little hand, he said, Gu Mingming, I have something to discuss with you. Gu Mingming glanced sideways. What's the matter? Is there a need to use the word discuss? Usually, Sandy would directly say, Gu Mingming, I want to do this and that. Just like when she decided to stay in Sauter and not return to St. Nazaire with her, she did not use the word discuss. Sandy looked at Elvis, then at Bode, who had just passed her a cup of water. I want to choose a few partners from the wolf tribe. Gu Mingming was taken aback, then instinctively looked at Bode. Bode pursed his lips and did not speak. Gu Mingming smiled awkwardly and said, this matter, you have to discuss it with your males? How can you discuss it with me? Sandy could not help but chuckle as he shook his head. You're still the same. You know a lot of things that others can't even figure out, but you're still confused about the common knowledge in the beast world. Gu Mingming tilted her head with a question mark on her face. Sandy heaved a sigh of relief and continued, in the beast world, females do not need to seek the male's permission to choose a new partner. Males who try to interfere or obstruct a female from accepting a new partner will be detested or even abandoned by the female. Chapter 12:30. Sandy looked straight into Gu Mingming's eyes and said, in the past, I only wanted to mate with the males I liked. Because of this, the number of partners I had was always so low. My stubbornness limited the strength of the family, to the extent that when danger approached, my partners would be fighting alone and get injured time and time again. My family members also reduced from 9 to 4. Now that we have these 3 little ones, I cannot continue being stubborn. It is my duty to raise the power of the family, so I decided to expand the family members. Gu Mingming pursed her lips and did not interrupt. She could not accept the beast world's concept of love, but she could not force others to live according to her concept of love either. Sandy was not Gu Mingming, her partners were also not as strong as Elvis and Leah. She could not stay by Sandy's side forever to protect her, so what right did she have to restrict her from taking in new partners to raise the power of the family? Gu Mingming held Sandy's little hand and said, "No matter what decision you make, as long as it makes you happy, I will support you." Sandy smiled and said, "I had originally planned to take in new partners during the rainy season, so that there would be a few helpers in the family when we are storing food, and Bode and the rest would not have to work so hard. But now, since I have to take in partners, why not just take in a few wolf beasts?" Gu Mingming thought about it and instantly understood Sandy's meaning. Her smile froze on her face and was replaced by heartache. "You want to use your own partner to promote the integration of the wolf beasts and solder?" Gu Mingming frowned and said, "Sandy, I do not object to you wanting to raise the power of the family, nor do I object to you wanting to take in new partners, but I do not wish for you to suffer. After all, you are going to be taking in partners. I still hope that you can choose the one you like." Sandy's gaze landed on Colin, who was carrying the prey with Oriton and walking back. Her gaze was as gentle as water and she said, "Haven't I already kept the one I really like by my side? Choosing again depends on their power. The wolf beasts are an outsider tribe. If they were to rush in all at once, there would definitely be friction with the Snow Fox tribe. In addition to the 16 tribes that submitted last year, the three powers would have to work together. It is really not easy to be the leader. The Snow Fox tribe's network is very complicated and it is not something I can interfere with. Because of Oakley, the 16 tribes have always kept a distance from us. It's too difficult to subdue them." Sighing, Sandy smiled at Gu Mingming. "The wolf tribe is different. Elvis is the wolf king, while Hutta and Jianghu are the young masters of the wolf tribe. It's just that the two of them are still not strong enough. It's still fine when Elvis is around, but you and Elvis will not stay in solder forever. Once you leave, I'm worried that Hutta and Jianghu, these two level 1 brats, won't be able to control this pack of wolf beasts. Then the situation will become even more chaotic." For the past year, Sandy had tried her best to take care of Hutta and Jianghu. She had almost given Colin to the two rascals, afraid that they would suffer outside. She was really more worried than her biological mother. The little female, who was originally innocent and carefree, gradually learned to analyze the pros and cons of the situation. Too many things had happened this year. Unknowingly, Sandy had grown up. Chapter 1231. Only after scabs and scars were formed did the true meaning of time settle down. This kind of growth was irreversible. Just like how Snake's death made Gu Mingming age 1,000 years overnight, Elvis and Leah used 2 years to gradually pull her out of that kind of growth. The two of them had spoiled her so much that she was like a child again, but only she knew that there were some things that she couldn't go back to. She kept reminding herself to be happy, to be cheerful, and not to let the people around her suffer because of her emotions, but it was like she was being torn apart. One was desperately smiling under the sun, and the other was secretly crying at night. How many times had she dreamt that Elvis would carry her back to the cave like a broken rag doll after she was torn apart by Ellie, kissing her while saying, "So it turns out that teasing a married woman will really incur the wrath of the heavens. They will cut open your chest and take out your gallbladder." She would wake up in shock from her dreams, but other than widening her eyes, she did not even dare to sit up and scream, afraid that Elvis and Leah would find out that she was having a nightmare again. What about Sandy? Out of the 9 partners, only 4 remained. Did that mean that Sandy had suffered 5 times the pain that Gu Mingming had suffered? After all, she would only mate with males she liked. How could Gu Mingming not feel sorry for her growth? Holding on to Sandy's little hand, Gu Mingming did not know what to say to comfort her. Only after experiencing the same thing did he know how useless those words that could easily be said to comfort others were. If the knife didn't stab itself, anyone could say, "How painful can it be? Just bear with it and it will be over." Sandy replied with a smile, "Don't worry, I'm fine now." Gu Mingming jumped out of Elvis's arms and hugged Sandy. "Yeah, I believe you." Sandy hugged Gu Mingming back and heaved a deep sigh, as if all the grievances she had been suppressing in her heart for a long time had been released. He then sat up straight and continued, "My current idea is to choose a few strong people from the wolf beasts. It would be best if they could break through the 3rd level and enter the 4th level after mating. This way, after all of you leave after the dry season, Hutta and Jianghu will have their own people to use. At that time, with their identities and my partner's strength, I believe that no one in the wolf clan will dare to have second thoughts." Gu Mingming chuckled and said, "You said you want to increase the power of your family, but you are actually trying to form a marriage alliance with the Wolf clan, right? Sandy smiled lightly and said, the marriage is true, but it is also true that he wants to increase the family's strength. I'm taking the initiative to discuss this with you because I'm afraid you'll overthink things. Gu Mingming pinched Sandy and said, I am already imagining things. Sandy shook his head and said, don't think too much. Gu Mingming said, Elvis is the Wolf King and he is my partner. To the Wolf tribe, this is already the most beneficial marriage. You really don't have to suffer. Sandy smiled and said, but you won't be staying in Sauder forever, so I, who has a close relationship with the Wolf King's family, am the most suitable candidate for marriage? Anyway, I was going to choose a new partner anyway. Because of your relationship with Elvis, my range of choices as a half-orc female has become much wider. In other words, I am the one who has the upper hand. Why do you look like I'm the one who suffered a loss? Chapter 1232. After returning from Sandy's house, Gu Mingming snuggled into Elvis's chest and asked, is the matter with the Wolf clan troublesome? Elvis shook his head. The Wolf tribe has nothing to settle. I'm the Wolf King, they don't dare to disobey me. So, I'm just going to tell them my rules unilaterally. It's not difficult at all. Strength reigns supreme, simple and violent. That's good too, at least they won't take up too much of your time. Gu Mingming leaned against Elvis's chest and said nonchalantly, how would Elvis not know what she was worried about? Worried about Sandy? He asked calmly. Gu Mingming nodded. Elvis said, no matter which wolf beast Sandy mates with, as long as I am alive, no one will dare to bully her. So you don't have to worry. Gu Mingming pouted and said, but what if the other party's character is not good? What if he's a scumbag? What if he has ulterior motives for approaching Sandy? Elvis had heard many modern stories from Gu Mingming, so he had a certain understanding of the term, scumbag. Chuckling, he rubbed Gu Mingming's little head and said, don't you know what happens to males in the beast world once they mate? Gu Mingming was taken aback and Xianji smiled. Yes, what was she worried about? Once a male in the beast world mated, it was equivalent to completely abandoning his ego and getting closer to the way the female liked him. Elvis and Leah were the same, Bode and Colin were the same, even Nina's eagle beast partner Quentin was the same. Scumbag? There was no such thing. With that thought, Gu Mingming felt much better. Objectively speaking, Sandy's thinking was mature and rational. She had no reason to stop her. But as her best friend, Gu Mingming felt that it was necessary to check on her. So she wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck and asked, didn't you meet them this afternoon? Are there any better ones who are honest, loyal, and powerful? It's best if they're good-looking, understanding, gentle, and considerate. Elvis smiled helplessly and said, in front of me, do you think they have the chance to display those qualities you mentioned just now? Gu Mingming was suddenly speechless. That's right. Which male would display his understanding, gentleness, and consideration in front of Elvis? That scene was too beautiful, she would probably be smacked to death by Elvis. Gu Mingming was a little conflicted. Should she go to the Wolf clan to find out more? However, her identity did not seem to be suitable. If she appeared, what if the males mistakenly thought that she was looking for a new partner? After all, the act of taking the initiative to appear at a gathering place full of single males was enough to hint to the males in the beast world. She did not want to attract any more lousy men. If a male really stuck to her because of a misunderstanding, Elvis might really kill him. Leah pinched Gu Mingming's little hand and said, our Elvis's promotion to Wolf King is such a big thing, aren't we going to hold a campfire party to celebrate? Gu Mingming's eyes brightened. That's right. A bonfire party? Usually, the bonfire party was a blind date in disguise so she could openly help Sandy pick out these males. Chapter 1233. Elvis gave the pack of wolves beside him a look and one of them turned around and ran off. It seemed like he was going to pass on the message. The next day, Elvis stayed with Gu Mingming at Sandy's house, discussing with her about the night campfire party. As the witch doctor, Leah had to host this night campfire party. Sauder originally had a witch doctor, but he was killed by Cole. The 16 tribes also had witch doctors, but none of them were willing to submit to each other. It would be a huge problem for anyone to host this kind of party, so Leah had to host it personally. The male of the messenger of the beast deity, the ninth highness of Sauder, a member of the Wolf King's family. With these three identities, all the current forces in Sauder had to give him face. Oriton had the biggest objection to this matter. His expression was not good the entire day, looking like he wanted to bite anyone he saw. Originally there were 3 meals a day, but now there was only 1 meal for dinner. His mood was really not good. But it seemed like no one cared about this matter. In the evening, Gu Mingming was already extremely anxious. She pulled Sandy along to get a good spot at the campfire party. But she was the messenger of the beast deity. Her campfire was always the center of the scene. How could there be a better spot? As for Sandy, although she was a half-orc because of Gu Mingming, her campfire was always right next to Gu Mingming. There was no need to occupy these 2 spots, no one would dare to snatch them. But Sandy did not stop Gu Mingming. After all, ever since Snake died, Gu Mingming had rarely been this excited. It was the same the last time she gave birth. The people in the tribe were all talking about Li's joke. If they were not sure that Gu Mingming was a female, they would have thought that she was giving birth to her child. It was the same this time. She was the one choosing her partner, but she was even more concerned and nervous than herself. She even started biting her nails at the parts that she was nervous about just now. But it was this rash Gu Mingming who was so reliable at crucial times. She saved her from danger time and time again. It was as if no matter what happened, as long as she was around, Sandy would feel at ease. When the 2 of them appeared at the campfire party together, it caused quite a commotion. After all, it was the first time the 16 tribes and the wolf tribe had attended a campfire party with Gu Mingming present. Especially after Elvis leveled up, their family's influence in the beast world was even more so not to be underestimated. The messenger of the beast deity was amazing. Her first partner was a beast king, her suitor was a beast king, and she herself was a beast king. There were only 3 beast kings in the entire beast world and she had gathered all of them. It was just that no one dared to say these words in front of her. The bonfire on Gu Mingming's left was Sandy's, while on her right was Ray, who was carrying a tiny snow fox in her arms. It was a young female that had just been born last winter. She was not even half a year old and had yet to transform. However, her parents were both perfect orcs, so there was a high chance that the little fellow was a perfect female. Sauter only had 1 young female, so naturally, she was more valuable than Philly and Lacey, who had given birth to 2 litters of males. Mothers were more valuable because of their daughters. So according to the beauty contest rules announced by Gu Mingming at St. Nazaire at the end of winter this year, Ray had become the first beauty of Sauter and naturally had the right to sit beside Gu Mingming. Chapter 1234. It was not that Gu Mingming could not tell that Ray's action was a demonstration to the 16 tribes and the Wolf clan. She was trying to prove that the Snow Fox tribe was the tribe closest to Gu Mingming, because they had been the messenger's tribe since the previous messenger of the beast deity was alive. Now that their 9th highness was the messenger's partner, the young females of the Snow Fox tribe had the right to ask the messenger to bestow a name upon them. This was the reason why Gu Mingming firmly rejected Oakley when he asked her if she wanted to unify the beast world. Once you were in a high position, you would never be able to break away from disputes. All the scheming would revolve around you and there was no way to avoid it. But, if she rejected Ray's request today, then the little female in her arms would suffer for the rest of her life because of the false accusation of not being liked by the emissary. Because not being liked by the messenger of the beast deity was equivalent to not being cared for by the beast deity. Who would dare to want such a female? Sighing, Gu Mingming reached out her arms and said, "Let me hug you." Ray was overjoyed as he handed the young female to Gu Mingming. Ha! It felt so good. The pure white and soft fur was so soft that the little fellow felt comfortable from Gu Mingming's touch. He squinted his eyes and raised his head, letting out a low purr. He wrapped his tail around his body and curled himself into a ball, nestling in Gu Mingming's arms obediently. He stuck out his little tongue to lick Gu Mingming's fingers from time to time, looking obedient and cute. Gu Mingming could not bear to let go after hugging him like this. After all, her sons were all grown up. Knowing that Sandy had once thought of choosing one of the 3 brothers to be her child husband, she no longer dared to casually carry other people's male cubs. Furthermore, although Leah and Elvis often transformed into their beast forms to satisfy her furry fetish, honestly speaking, the big fox and the little fox could not be compared in terms of cuteness. Everything was the same. The smaller the cuter. Looking at the little fellow in her arms, Gu Mingming's entire being warmed up and she did not bother about Ray's little thoughts anymore. I wasn't prepared for your sudden question. I'm not good at naming things anyway. Ray could not help but frown, her face full of disappointment. Gu Mingming chuckled and continued, "So, let's just copy it. In our world there was a fox who was famous for her beauty and was a household name. I think this little fellow will definitely be more beautiful than her when she grows up, so I might as well steal her name and use it. The messenger of the beast deity was helping her child snatch a name, and it was snatched from the beast god's world. Both of Rei's eyes lit up. Gu Mingming smiled and teased the little fox. How about calling you Daji? Squeak, 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 the little fox squeaked. Gu Mingming glanced sideways at Rei. After all, Gu Mingming did not understand fox meowing. Rei laughed so hard that she almost cried. She knelt on the ground and kowtowed to express her gratitude. Daji said that she likes this name very much. Thank you, Lord Messenger, for giving me this name. Gu Mingming gave Rei a hand and said, All right, the name has been decided. You can carry the child back. Rei pursed her lips, lowered her eyes and said carefully, Is there anything else? Gu Mingming was displeased. She did not like people who pushed their luck. Chapter 1235. Damn. She was eyeing her son, wasn't she? Gu Mingming's eyes widened, feeling incredulous. In fact, her son was only 2 years old this year. He was born 2 years earlier than this last, so their ages were compatible. But the problem was that her son was already a first-level orc and looked like 2 high school students, while the one in her arms should still be biting on a pacifier and wearing a diaper. She could not accept it. But the ratio of males and females in the beast world was so different, it was not a bad idea to raise a child bride. Gu Mingming hesitated. She wanted to agree but was afraid that Huda and his brothers would not like arranged marriages. Rei did not know what Gu Mingming meant by not saying anything and could only continue. If the great messenger doesn't mind, you can hand Daji over to leader Huda to raise. The two of them will develop a relationship from young and will definitely get along well in the future. And with the great messenger's personal guidance, Daji will definitely grow into an outstanding female. What she meant was that you could bring her home now and then educate her according to your preferences, raising her into a daughter-in-law that you would definitely be satisfied with. Was that what she meant? To be honest, Gu Mingming was very tempted. She glanced at Huda, who was sitting at the side watching the show. Although Rei had specifically pointed out Daji to be given to Huda, but no matter how few females there were, Gu Mingming's son could not be so easily accepted, right? Huda smiled calmly and walked to Gu Mingming. Mother, I am still a first-level orc now. I have to busy myself with the affairs of the tribe and think of ways to level up as soon as possible. I really do not have the energy to take care of a little female. But since Rei has such good intentions, I can't reject her. Why don't I temporarily place Daji in mother-in-law's house? Firstly, it will be easier to develop a relationship, and secondly, if anything happens in the future, Daji's reputation will not be ruined. As for mating, let's wait for Daji to grow up a little more. Placing her in Sandy's house was indeed the most suitable, because Sandy did not belong to any of the 3 factions. She was a firm supporter of Gu Mingming and did not ally with anyone else other than Gu Mingming. Moreover, the 4 sons of the messenger were often raised in Sandy's house when they were young. Everyone in the tribe knew that Huda and Jianghu still called Sandy mother-in-law, which meant that their daughter-in-law must be raised by Sandy. Therefore, handing Daji over to Sandy to raise was basically equivalent to an engagement. Moreover, as long as Daji was in Sandy's house, Rei would have the opportunity and reason to get closer to Sandy. This was naturally the best situation for the Snow Fox clan. Therefore, Rei didn't object. She just looked at Sandy and said with a smile, Sister Sandy, then I'll have to trouble you to take Daji. How could Sandy not know what Huda was planning? He smiled and glared at Huda but didn't expose him. He just nodded and said, It's no trouble, I like children anyway. Thus this matter was settled. Since Daji was to be raised in Sandy's house, Gu Mingming did not need to return her to Rei. She cherished her as much as she could and would occasionally give Leah a look, clearly saying, even if you don't let me give birth, I can still play with her. This little ball might be his daughter-in-law in the future, a mother-in-law who had molested her daughter-in-law. Gu Mingming felt that she was about to ascend to the heavens. Chapter 1236. After Rei retreated to the side of the bonfire, Leah pinched Gu Mingming's little face and said, Don't carry me home. What? Gu Mingming felt aggrieved. Today Sandy was going to choose her partner. That night she would definitely applaud for love. Daji was a milk bun and a female at that. How inconvenient would it be to bring her back? Whoever's wife will have to take care of himself. Elvis and I will not take care of females other than you. Then I'll take care of myself. You're not free. I'm free. Gu Mingming insisted. Leah chuckled. If you carry her back, I can guarantee that you won't be free for the next 3 days. Damn it, Gu Mingming was terrified. If you don't want to bring it, then so be it. Leah then smiled and said, good girl. With that, Leah walked to the middle of the field surrounded by the bonfire. Today's bonfire was purposely lit in such a manner. The original 9 snow fox females in Sauter, the 42 females from the 16 tribes, plus Sandy and Gu Mingming made up a total of 53 bonfires that formed a huge circle. In the middle was an open space that was filled with fresh straw. Leah stood in the middle of the empty space and said, today is the night campfire party to celebrate the birth of another beast king in the beast world. Thank you, beast deity, for bestowing us with strength. Thank you, messenger, for bringing us towards hope. Thank you, Lord Beast God. Thank you, Lord Messenger. The continuous shouts made Gu Mingming feel like she was in a cult. He smiled awkwardly and didn't say anything. Leah waited for everyone to shout their slogan a few times before gesturing for them to stop. Then he continued, Sauter has grown a lot in these 2 years with many new members. We can take this opportunity to learn from each other and get to know each other better. At the same time, we can also develop some rapport. After Leah finished speaking, he smiled devilishly. This smile made all the males present immediately understand what was going on. The raging flames of war spread in an instant. All the males became eager and rubbed their fists and palms together. Even Elvis tensed up his muscles due to the atmosphere, having the desire to rush up and kill. Gu Mingming poked Elvis and he cleared his throat awkwardly. It's my battle instinct, I'm used to it. Gu Mingming did not say a word and just turned to look at Leah. Leah continued, Sauter now has 53 females. No other tribe in the beast world can compare to Sauter. But warriors, you were born in such a happy tribe and you are still single? Isn't this a kind of humiliation? 2 male instincts, the attack instinct and the mating instinct. Just flirting with any one of them could cause a huge commotion, but Leah easily flirted with both of them. If a male could still remain calm, that would really be a miracle. Chapter 1237. Gu Mingming chuckled. Li's words could not be any more direct. In other words, it was, whoever dares to have any designs on Gu Mingming, I will let Elvis smack you to death. Single males were at most 3rd level and he, a 4th level beast, could easily deal with them. But he would not go up and directly use Elvis, the Beast King, to crush everyone. Haha, I want to see who has the guts to play tricks in front of the King of Hell. If everyone has no problems with the rules, then let's start the competition between 1st level beasts. After Leah gave the order, Huda and Jiaoyu went up first. Gu Mingming was dumbfounded. What was going on? Her son was only 2 years old. Who was he going to confess to? She looked down at the soft and adorable little Dodgy in her arms. Damn. Huda, why are you going up? Don't you already have a wife? Before Gu Mingming could figure it out, Huda and Jiaoyu were already fighting. After all, they were blood-related brothers and had a tacit understanding when they fought. Every attack was clean and it looked very exciting. But neither of them was injured, not even a scratch. She did not know if it was because of their statuses, but the audience cheered. After the 2 brothers fought for a while, Jiaoyu's gaze coupled with a series of attacks that were obviously a setup, and Huda was held down by Jiaoyu. Jiaoyu wins. Leah had already returned to his seat beside Gu Mingming, announcing his victory with the attitude of a parent watching his own child play. Jiaoyu walked in front of Leah and scooped a bowl of food from the pot before walking towards one of the campfires. He knelt down on one knee and placed the stone bowl on the ground. Then he conversed with a female. As the distance was too far, Gu Mingming could not hear them clearly. She only knew that after a while, Jiaoyu returned with the stone bowl and a little lion in his arms. Mother-in-law, let me raise my wife in your house too. Jiaoyu blinked his eyes that were so similar to Gu Mingming's and smiled. You can't just be nice to Huda. I have been calling you mother-in-law for so many years, my wife has to be raised by you too. Gu Mingming smiled. Gu Mingming was dumbfounded. Wasn't her son too mature? Sandy sighed and said, all right, since you've asked, how can I refuse? Jiaoyu sniggered and said, I knew that mother-in-law dotes on me the most. With that, Jiaoyu sat beside Gu Mingming and placed the little lion on her lap. Mum, my wife doesn't have a name either. Give her one. Ah. Gu Mingming could not keep up with her son's pace. Jiaoyu laughed. It can't be, mother? She's obviously your daughter-in-law. Isn't it too obvious that you're biased? No, Mom, there are so many people watching. If you can only name Big Brother's wife and not me, then people will definitely say that I'm raised by a stepmother in the future. Then they will look down on me and despise me. Sob sob sob. Mom, will I have no face to see people in the future? Gu Mingming facepalmed. Jiaoyu was being unreasonable, wasn't he? He took a deep breath and said, I'll take it, alright? Gu Mingming carefully recalled all her memories of lions, but she really could not remember which lioness was famous. Wait a minute, there really was one. Here. Gu Mingming said, she's the most famous lioness I can think of. Jiaoyu asked curiously, what's she most famous for? Is it also her beauty? Gu Mingming shook her head and said, no, she's most famous for her father. Her father is the Lion King Simba. Digression. Chapter 1238. Haha, good. You're like me, a second generation who can depend on your father, right? Jiaoyu poked Kiera with a smile. Hey little wife, remember your name is Kiera. I will call you Xiaoye in the future. Do you hear me? Oh, Kiera cried out in a childish voice. No one knew what she was trying to express, but it was rather cute. Gu Mingming lowered her head to look at the two daughters-in-law in her arms. Damn, it felt like she was hugging a kitten and a puppy. Damn, it was supposed to be Sandy's choice of partner. Why did it suddenly become her choice of daughters-in-law? Alright, Mum, you can play with these two daughters-in-law first. If it's not enough, ask second brother and Kanwu to find another two for you. With that, she patted her butt. Let Daddy Leah accompany you. I will host this sparring session. With that, Jiaoyu walked to the arena and took over Li's job, starting to host the sparring session. With Huda and Jiaoyu throwing out a brick to attract Jade, the first-level orcs who were initially too shy to go on stage became much more lively. But basically no one dared to confess. Because everyone was very clear that today's sparring session was to display their strength to the other two tribes. After tonight, the leadership of Sauter would be decided. Even if the females would really accept new partners, they would definitely not be these first-level orcs. But none of the three forces were willing to lose, so even if it was just a first-level orc sparring session, it was still very exciting. By the time Gu Mingming regained her senses from the fact that she suddenly had two daughters-in-law, it was already the second-level orc sparring session. On the stage, a wolf and a tiger were locked in a fierce battle. This was a battle between the 16 tribes and the wolf clan. Fights between males were mostly bloody and brutal. But if they did not fight this battle, it would be really difficult to deal with the three parties who would not submit to each other. They were males and their relationships were formed through fighting. As long as they did not kill each other, they would become friends after fighting. Moreover, she had seen too much of Little Shits and Elvis's fighting style, so she did not feel any psychological burden watching these sparring sessions. And Jiaoyu was very smart. He grasped the timing very well. Once one party lost the ability to attack, he would immediately declare the winner, not giving the other party any chance to kill each other. In the end, the tiger won. Elvis expressed his indifference towards this because he did not care whether the Wolf clan was the leader in Sauter or not. However, the people of the Wolf clan were very upset because they felt that they had lost face for their king. The tiger's injuries were not light either. He dragged his limping legs and scooped up a stone bowl of food. He walked to Gu Mingming and stood firmly looking at her. As he stood there, the entire place fell silent. Brave warrior. A true warrior. No, he might become a martyr. Elvis narrowed his eyes and sat up straight. A second-level tiger beast was really too small in his eyes, but he would not belittle any male who coveted Gu Mingming. The tiger beast panted and was about to speak when Gu Mingming gestured for him to stop. Gu Mingming tried her best to comfort him. Some words can't be taken back once they've been spoken. Think about it carefully and speak after you've thought it through. This world is so beautiful, why do you want to die? Chapter 1239. It was a false alarm. Gu Mingming heaved a sigh of relief and her heart was finally at ease. Elvis and Leah also relaxed their grim expressions and sat back in their comfortable positions. Everyone who was holding their breaths all laughed softly. Only the tiger beast, who was holding the bowl, did not understand and just looked at Gu Mingming, waiting for her reply. After being relieved, there was a wave of awkwardness. She thought that he was going to confess to her and her own husband almost killed him. How embarrassing. Clearing her throat, Gu Mingming pretended to be calm and said, "It's not a problem to bring you back to Saint Nazaire, but I can't guarantee that Mandy will accept you. It's alright, I will always work hard." The tiger beast said confidently. Gu Mingming smiled and nodded. "Since that's the case, you don't have to wait for me. You can head straight to Saint Nazaire tomorrow morning. When you reach there, look for Barit and tell him that I asked you to go. With that, Gu Mingming took out a piece of snake scale and threw it to the tiger beast, saying, "This is a keepsake. Barit recognizes it. With this, he won't make things difficult for you." That piece of snake scale was given to Gu Mingming by Ellie previously. There were crooked simplified Chinese characters carved on it, and it was something that Gu Mingming had secretly copied from Snake. Barit had seen it before, and Gu Mingming had kept it on her for so long. Barit would definitely believe that it had Gu Mingming's scent on it. "Thank you, great messenger." The tiger beast gave a simple and honest smile, then put away the snake scales like a treasure and left the bonfire party. He could not wait for tomorrow morning. He wanted to find Mandy now. After this small blunder, the competition between the second-level orcs became more intense. The wolf beast won 6 of the 8 rounds in a row and only stopped after regaining his reputation in front of Elvis. The last was the main event, the competition between the third-level orcs. Gu Mingming shifted her butt to sit beside Sandy, saying, After sizing them up for so long, did you take a fancy to any of them? I'll get Jianghu to help you blow the black whistle." Sandy was amused by Gu Mingming's teasing and said, "Do you still think that this competition is really to strengthen our relationship?" All 3 parties were competing with each other. If you really let Jianghu blow the black whistle, it would be even harder for him to convince the masses in the future. What's more, the reason I'm choosing my partner this time is to improve my family's strength. I don't want a male who can only win by blowing a black whistle. Gu Mingming thought for a while and nodded. "That's true, we don't want that kind of embroidered pillow." "That's right." Sandy chuckled as he turned his attention back to the sparring field. The first to fight was Arnold of the Snow Fox clan against Hodgson of the Wolf clan. Gu Mingming knew this Arnold. He was the child of one of the elders in the Snow Fox tribe and had been highly regarded since young. It was said that his father had the intention to pass the position of an elder to him. Being of the same generation as Leah, he should be able to break through the 3rd level immediately after mating. His abilities were not to be underestimated. Gu Mingming also knew Hodgson. He was one of the first wolf beasts to follow Elvis back from the Mecca Desert. Elvis didn't like to interfere with the affairs of the pack, and unknowingly, Arnold became the little leader of the pack. His position was similar to Wabi Eyes in the Snake King Valley. Both of them were heavyweights. It looked like neither wanted to lose. Gu Mingming poked Elvis and then Leah as if she was watching a good show. Guess who will win? Chapter 1240. Lee's words were directed at Gu Mingming, but his eyes were looking at Elvis, obviously having a playful intention. Elvis said coldly, "No. I won't use Xiaomeng as a wager." Leah clicked his tongue and said, "Boring?" With that, he wagged his tail and leaned into Gu Mingming's arms, asking, "Mingming, who do you think will win?" Gu Mingming said nervously, "I don't know, both sides are the cream of the crop, it's hard to tell who will win." Leah chuckled and said, "Then who do you hope to win?" This was the first battle between the 3rd-level orcs. The outcome would determine the future direction of Sauter. Gu Mingming face-bombed and looked at Leah with a headache, saying, "Why don't we stay in Sauter for a while?" "All right." Leah and Elvis had never questioned Gu Mingming's decision and just followed her orders. Rubbing Gu Mingming's temples, Leah asked softly, "Do you feel heartache for throwing such a complicated situation to Huda and Jianghu?" Gu Mingming nodded. In her eyes, this situation was giving her a headache. How difficult would it be for the 2 children to move forward? To put it nicely, he was the leader, but he did not have any power of his own. He had to rely on Jianghu's identity as the messenger's son to act as a mediator. Luckily Huda and Jianghu were of the same mind, or else these 2 children would have been eaten alive. It was no wonder that Sandy felt heartache for using herself as a marriage alliance, just to help these 2 kids earn some bargaining chips. Leah pinched Gu Mingming's little nose and said, "If you want to stay in Sauter, we will stay. If you want Elvis and I to solve these problems, we will. But there is no place in this world where people are not complicated, you can't protect them forever." I understand the logic, but isn't that the identity of a mother? Never able to stop worrying for your own children. Sigh, raising a child for 100 years but worrying for 99 years. Leah did not say anything more and just gave Elvis a look. Elvis then took over Gu Mingming from Lee's hands and continued to massage her temples. Meanwhile, Leah took over the fruit platter and used his sharp fingernails to cut the fruits into small pieces that were suitable for one bite. He then sent them into Gu Mingming's mouth piece by piece. On the field, Arnold and Hodgson were also locked in a fierce battle. They both understood what kind of mission they were shouldering. Although they could not kill each other, Every move they made was ruthless, and it seemed like they would not rest until one side was dead. Gu Mingming felt her head ache even more. She looked up at Elvis and then at Leah, saying, "This way of fighting, they won't stop until one side is exhausted to death, right?" Leah swayed his tail and said, "Not every wolf and fox in this world can coexist peacefully like me and Elvis." There were too many similarities and subtle differences between the two races. For example, they were arrogant and ruthless. When these two races meet, it's inevitable that they will fight to the death. Gu Mingming sighed and said, "So was it a mistake to place the wolf tribe in solder? Would it be better to bring him to Zacharias or Saint Nazir?" Chapter 1241. Gu Mingming thought for a moment before chuckling. The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. If you want the garden to be filled with the colors of spring, you cannot allow a single branch to stand out. Gu Mingming didn't say that this was a sentence the empress used to say to a favored concubine in the past. Leah thought for a moment before nodding. "That's about it." Gu Mingming pointed at the two who were still fighting. "Then, what do you plan to do about this?" Leah chuckled. "One match can't decide anything. We still have to look at the results, isn't that right?" Gu Mingming nodded. She leaned into Elvis's arms and occasionally stole a glance at Sandy. She realized that she was hugging the two little females and playing happily. Her mind was completely not on the match on the arena. She didn't care who won or lost. As long as the person she was going to mate with tonight was a powerful male from the wolf tribe. It didn't matter which one it was. Daji and Kiera still didn't understand the conflict between the races. They only knew that they were happy to have someone to play with. Hence they played until their stomachs were up in the air. It was a stark contrast to the two males who were fighting. The wolf tribe won this match. Because no matter how cunning a fox was, it was still no match for a wolf in terms of raw power. This was an innate difference. Just based on combat skills, the wolf would definitely win. This was also why the combination of Elvis and Leah was always decided by Leah and executed by Elvis. Even if the two of them appeared on the battlefield at the same time, Elvis would be the leader and Leah would be in charge of covering. Hodgson took a bowl of meat from Jianghu and brought it to Sandy. "Little female, are you willing to mate with me?" Sandy looked up and smiled at Hodgson. She didn't even request for Hodgson to accept the test of her current partner. Bode and Colin kept their heads down and remained silent. They took care of the children and brought food to Sandy as if they were not affected at all. But Gu Mingming was too familiar with them. She easily noticed the emptiness in their eyes. In this world, no male could remain indifferent when he knew his female was looking for a new partner. However, the female was God and they did not have the right to say no. Gu Mingming thought to herself, if she was the one who wanted to marry a few new partners for the sake of the stability of the tribe. Yeah, Elvis and Leah would not hesitate to raise solder to the ground, then smile and say to her, "All right, there's no more tribe, there's no need to maintain stability anymore." The competition continued. Because Hodgson's victory had greatly boosted the morale of the werewolves, they became more and more courageous. Even though the Snow Fox clan had lost the first battle, they were not discouraged. They immediately began to rearrange their troops and arranged corresponding troops according to the order of the Wolf clan. However, there were too many variables when it came to improvising on the spot. Perhaps the Snow Fox clan's prior preparations had allowed them to gain an advantage or two, but the Wolf clan was not a fool. They would not remain passive all the time. Both sides racked their brains to think of ways to strangle the other, but this stubbornness gave the 16 tribes a huge opening. By the time the people of the Snow Fox clan and the Wolf clan had reacted, the 16 tribes had already gained an absolute advantage in the battle between the third-level orcs. Chapter 1242. Gu Mingming stared at Leah with a face full of disbelief. Leah chuckled. Daji from the Snow Fox tribe, Kiera from the 16 tribes and Sandy's Wolf tribe partners. Don't you think this distribution is too balanced? You mean? Lee's gaze was crafty, reflecting the sparks from the bonfire. His smile was full of praise. Jianghu is after all a child I brought up. In some aspects, he is very similar to me. Gu Mingming was unhappy. She twitched her lips. Forget about Sandy taking in partners. With me and Elvis around, they wouldn't dare to bully him. But if Hada and Jianghu are going to use their entire lives to exchange for Solder's balance, then why not let Solder continue to be chaotic? Once a male mates, it was equivalent to handing over his entire life to the female. By then, the Snow Fox tribe would use Daji to control Hada, while the 16 tribes would use Kiera to control Jianghu. Sooner or later, the brothers would turn against each other. Gu Mingming didn't want to see such a day for her own sons. Leah smiled as he pinched Gu Mingming's nose with a helpless expression. He sighed and said, "Since we have already put it this way, do you still think Jianghu is a fool and would place himself in such a situation?" Gu Mingming blinked in confusion. Leah said, "I only said to raise them at Sandy's house." "Who said that they must mate? Females are more delicate and won't participate in any form of battle. So they need more time to accumulate experience. They need at least 8 to 10 years of age to transform. By then they will be at least 16 or 17 years old. By then Hada and Jianghu will be 18 or 19 years old. Do you think that Hada and Jianghu, who are able to stabilize the situation at 2.5 years old, will still be controlled and coerced by these people when they are Elvis's age?" Gu Mingming thought about it seriously. She shook her head and chuckled. This was the second common fault of all mothers. No matter how outstanding their children were, they were used to worrying over nothing. They clearly loved their children the most, but they would never learn to trust them. They would take care of them like greenhouse flowers that could not withstand any storms. Leah kissed the corner of Gu Mingming's lips and said, "There are only 2 possible scenarios in the future. These 2 little females look decent and get along well with the 2 brothers. They fell in love with each other and became partners. In that case, do you think that Jianghu would allow others to make use of the people he cares about? Moreover, would a child raised by Sandy be biased towards an outsider? The other scenario was that these 2 children had grown up in the wrong way. Hada and Jianghu did not like them and refused to mate with them. Then things would be even simpler. If our sons did not want to drink water, who would be able to stop them? Furthermore, who in this world would have the guts to force the sons of 2 beast kings to mate?" Thinking about it this way, it made sense. It was just that Gu Mingming felt rather apologetic for making use of the 2 females. Hence, in the days that followed, Gu Mingming, the model mother-in-law of the beast world, treated Daji and Kiera especially well. As there was a competition segment at the night campfire party, it lasted until very late. Gu Mingming, who had not stayed up late for many years, finally collapsed in Elvis's arms in exhaustion. She had originally wanted to help Sandy with the matter of finding a partner, but in the end she was not of much help. Sandy basically accepted all the wolf beasts that confessed to her. Chapter 1243. They both knew what the other party's motive was and what the other party could provide for them. This kind of mating was more like an alliance. If the Wolf clan wished to replace the Snow Fox clan in Sauter, they first had to strengthen Hada and Jianghu's position. Although they were only first-level beasts, they had the bloodline of the Wolf King and were on the same side as them. On one hand, mating with Sandy was to borrow Sandy's stomach to give birth to a little female wolf to mate with the Wolf King's son. On the other hand, it was because Hada and Jianghu both valued Sandy. Mating with her was the fastest way to express their sincerity to the 2 young masters. Regardless of which of the 2 reasons mentioned above, the 7 male wolves would treat Sandy very well. And in order to help Hada and Jianghu win over the Wolf clan, Sandy would definitely not mistreat Hodgson and the rest. Moreover, Sandy was a gentle person to begin with. Even if she did not have much feelings for her partner before she became his partner, once she became his partner, she would at least not abandon her partner like Nina or Ellie. This was originally the normal way of mating in the beast world. Gu Mingming, Elvis and Leah, who loved each other to death before mating, were the exceptions. Gu Mingming could feel that the winds in Sauter were changing unknowingly. But Leah was right, she had to learn to trust her own sons. Before the dry season ended, she, Elvis and Leah would stay in Sauter. So Hada and Jianghu had 3 to 4 months to rely on the messenger of the beast deity as their biological mother and the Wolf King in Ninth Highness as their fathers to buffer the conflict between the 3 forces in Sauter. Of course, Hada had always been steady. Although he was only first level, he was very popular. Especially after his engagement with Daji, the Snow Fox clan spared no effort in cooperating with him. On the other hand, Jianghu's little tricks at the night campfire had allowed the 16 tribes to reap the spoils of the war. Despite being pincered by the Snow Fox clan and the Wolf clan, he managed to achieve victory amidst the dangers. Just a few casual words had such an effect. The people of the 16 tribes were wholeheartedly convinced by his strategy, and in addition to the marriage agreement he had with Kiera, the people of the 16 tribes naturally followed Jianghu's lead and were rather obedient. As for the Wolf tribe, firstly, with Elvis sitting here, no one dared to make a fuss. Secondly, the person in charge of Sauter was after all the Wolf clan's young master, so no matter what, they were all on the same side. No matter how much they confronted the other two parties secretly, they would not let their young master fall into a dilemma. So, at least on the surface, Sauter had reached a tacit agreement of peace. A week had passed since the night campfire and Gu Mingming had not gone to look for Sandy. It was not that she did not want to go, but it was really, there were several times when he was at the door, but he heard indescribable sounds coming from inside. He had no choice but to turn around and leave. Gu Mingming propped her cheeks and suddenly looked at Elvis resentfully. Do you wolf beasts not know how to be tender to women? It's been 7 days. Are you going to make Sandy die in bed? Elvis was baffled by her scolding. He rubbed his nose and smiled helplessly. Gu Mingming also knew that her outburst was unreasonable, so she sighed and said, Sorry, you didn't do anything wrong, I shouldn't have vented my anger on you and scolded randomly. Chapter 1244. Gu Mingming was stunned by Elvis's words and didn't know how to react. Elvis kissed Gu Mingming's little face and said, It's my honor to be scolded by you. Others don't get it even if they want it. Gu Mingming chuckled and shook her head speechlessly. Elvis pinched Gu Mingming's slender and soft fingers and said, I am your male, you can scold and hit me if you want. You don't need a reason or an apology, do you understand? I'm not a pervert. Gu Mingming turned her head away in rebuke. Elvis placed Gu Mingming's little hand into his mouth and bit it lightly. He didn't say anything else. The two of them were sitting by the side of the stone castle and enjoying their time together when a wolf beast walked over. Upon closer inspection, they realized it was Sandy's new partner, Hodgson. Wolf King Queen. Hodgson bowed respectfully and said, Sandy said she misses the Queen very much and wants to invite the Queen to our house for a visit. Elvis raised his brows with an unfriendly expression and said, Sandy's temper has grown. In the past, she would at most come over without a greeting when she misses you. Now she sent someone to invite you. Gu Mingming poked Elvis and said, It's not that she doesn't want to come, she can't come. Elvis looked at Gu Mingming in confusion. Gu Mingming gritted her teeth and said, She took in 7 wolf beasts at once. Do you think she can get down from the bed now? Elvis thought about how Gu Mingming would sleep for 2 to 3 days after he made love with her, unable to wake up at all. He understood but was still very unhappy. Then you can't go over now, the air at her place is not good now. Gu Mingming's expression changed. Gu Mingming pinched Elvis with a smile and said, Have you forgotten that I promised Sandy that every time she mates in the future, I will congratulate her and sing for her? In that case, Xiaoming, how long has it been since you sang for me? Didn't you sing on the way back from the Mecca desert? Gu Mingming said. That doesn't count. Elvis had a nagging feeling that Gu Mingming did not sing that song for him. It felt weird but he could not put his finger on it. Anyway, something was not right. Gu Mingming squirmed in his arms and said, I will sing for you when we are back. I am going to see Sandy now, do you want to come with me? What else could Elvis say? How could he bear not to look at her? Carrying Gu Mingming, he stood up and headed straight for the stone castle where Sandy was staying. When he reached the stone castle, he saw Sandy nestled in Colin's arms, looking so weak that she was about to die. Bode was holding a stone bowl and feeding her carefully mouthful by mouthful, his eyes filled with heartache. The moment she looked up and saw Gu Mingming, a smile finally appeared on Sandy's face. Her eyes brightened and she wanted to wave her hand to call Gu Mingming over, but realized that she could not even lift her arm. She opened her mouth, but her throat could no longer make a sound. She could only shrug her shoulders weakly and smile helplessly. Gu Mingming jumped down from Elvis's arms and sat beside Sandy. She then glanced at Bode and he immediately passed the bowl in his hands to Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming took the stone bowl and said while feeding Sandy, The sun is just nice outside. Go get some thick beef skin and lay it at the door. I want to bask in the sun with Sandy. Chapter 1245. After Bode finished laying out the beast's skin, Gu Mingming had just finished feeding him the meat soup in her bowl. She then glanced at Colin and walked out without saying a word. Colin kept his head down the entire time. Even though he was the tyrant of Sauter with his usual heroic spirit, he was like a cowardly bear in front of Gu Mingming. He did not dare to say anything and just followed behind Gu Mingming. Seeing Gu Mingming sitting at the corner of the beast's skin and Elvis sitting behind her to act as a warm leather backrest, Colin wanted to learn from Elvis and let Sandy lean on him. But he had just stepped one foot on the beast's skin when Gu Mingming said, Tisk. Colin was so frightened that he immediately retracted his foot and looked at Gu Mingming innocently and pitifully. Gu Mingming then said, "Give Sandy to me. Go and call all the males in your family out." Colin secretly broke out in cold sweat and nodded naively. He did not dare to say anything and hurriedly called out his 4 original partners and the 7 new wolf beasts that Sandy had taken in. There was a total of 11 of them and they stood in a row in front of the beast's skin. The original 4 males in Sandy's family all knew what was going on and all lowered their heads obediently, not daring to make a sound. But the 7 new wolf beasts were at a loss. They looked at each other, not knowing what was going on but not daring to do anything. After all, this great lady was not only the messenger of the beast deity but also the queen of the wolf clan. And behind her was the mighty wolf king. Gu Mingming's gaze swept across the 11 of them and said in a neutral tone, "You are really capable. Great messenger, I was wrong." Colin was the first to admit his mistake with a sincere attitude. Gu Mingming chuckled, "Oh? Tell me, where did you go wrong?" Colin scratched his head and said, "I don't know, but your smile is so scary, it must be my fault." Gu Mingming was so angry at Colin that she laughed. She looked down at Sandy and asked, "Girl, how did you fall for this piece of wood in the first place?" Sandy's throat was so hoarse that she could not speak at all. She just smiled helplessly and shook her head lightly. Gu Mingming looked up again and asked, "How many 4th-level beasts do you have in your family now?" Colin answered honestly, "Only me now. However, it seems like Hodgson and Jerry only need one more battle to level up." Gu Mingming nodded and said, "So at least until now, you are still the strongest in your family, right?" Colin nodded stiffly. Gu Mingming's face darkened. "As the strongest in the family, what are your responsibilities?" "Protect Sandy." Colin answered directly without thinking. Gu Mingming sneered. "Is this how you protect Sandy?" Colin was stunned by the question. He immediately lowered his head and said sullenly, "But Sandy chose her own partner. Oh, so if one day Sandy doesn't want to live anymore, will you let her die?" "That won't do." Colin looked up and was so anxious that he was tongue-tied. Gu Mingming pointed at the bear mark on Sandy's chest and said, "Your mark is on her chest and you are the most powerful person in the family. What you have to do is to protect her and ensure her safety under all circumstances. But she was tortured to such a miserable state right under your eyes, and you say you don't know what you did wrong?" Chapter 1246. There's a next time? Gu Mingming glared at Colin. Colin did not know why he was being glared at again. He pointed at the wolf beast beside him and said, "The 5 of them have not mated yet." This time it was Gu Mingming's turn to be stunned. After 7 days they only mated with 2? Damn it. Inhuman. Gu Mingming turned back to look at Elvis in shock. Elvis chuckled and bit Gu Mingming's earlobe. He whispered into her ear, "Now you know how much control I have over myself?" F***K. Every time she was tortured by Elvis and Leah, it was as if every bone in her body had been disassembled and reassembled. And it was actually the result of control. Gu Mingming felt so tired. She ignored Elvis and just looked at Colin. She sighed and said, "Didn't I say it the last time? If you can't protect Sandy, I will bring her away." Gu Mingming, I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Colin immediately admitted defeat and promised, "In the future when they mate, I will sit at the side and watch. If Sandy can't take it anymore, I will immediately stop and bring her away. I won't let her suffer anymore. I beg you, don't bring Sandy away." The 7 wolves looked at each other. When they first arrived at Sodder, they had already inquired about the general situation here. They knew that Sandy and the Queen were on good terms. They also knew that this 4th-level bear Colin had once been the messenger's guard and was now Sodder's strongest fighter. Because of his protection, the 2 young masters were not so passive in Sodder. In these 7 days, other than Hodgson and Jerry who had mated with Sandy and did not know what was going on outside, the other 5 wolves had witnessed Colin's ruthlessness. They all had a tacit understanding not to offend Colin after mating. But who could tell them what was wrong with this coward now? Gu Mingming did not care about what they thought. She just lowered her head and held Sandy's little face asking, "Sandy, is your throat sore? Do you want to eat yellow sauce?" Sandy knew that Gu Mingming was feeling sorry for her. She was afraid that she would be bullied by her new partners because of her good temper, so she came to show them her power. She wanted to tell them that the person supporting her was the messenger of the beast deity, Gu Mingming. Although she felt that Colin was innocent, Sandy still nodded cooperatively. Her little eyes were filled with grievance. Gu Mingming nodded her head, her heart aching for him. Then when she looked up at Colin, her smile changed. Colin stared blankly for 2 seconds, then immediately said, I know the yellow needle beasts. I'll get you some yellow gravy. I will only take half from each nest. I promise I won't kill them all. Only then did Gu Mingming reply with a lukewarm, yeah. Colin turned around and ran away as if he had just been pardoned. Gu Mingming's gaze turned and landed on Bode. She grinned and Bode's hair stood on end. He could not help but take half a step back and lowered his head. Great messenger, I know I was wrong too. As long as you don't take Sandy away, I'll accept any punishment you say. Bode, you are Sandy's first partner, but how much longer do you plan to stay in the second rank? Gu Mingming's words hit the nail on the head, making Bode speechless. When he first mated with Sandy, he was only a level 1 orc. It was only after experiencing so many battles in the past 2 years that he finally rose to level 2. Even so, compared to his current family members, level 2 was still not enough. In the beast world, being weak was a sin. Chapter 1247. But apart from accumulating experience, opportunities were also very important for a male to level up. Fighting with all their might, some could easily level up, while others couldn't even advance to the next level. And Bode just happened to belong to the second category. Even before he met Gu Mingming, he had been longing to level up so that he could protect Sandy from Nina. But now, even after fighting with all his might, he had only advanced from the first level to the second level. Gu Mingming sighed. I know someone who might be able to raise your fighting abilities, but the method must be cruel and the process must be painful. I'll go. Bode blurted out almost without hesitation. His gaze landed on Sandy's worried face. Bode smiled as he knelt down on one knee and caressed Sandy's little face. You'll be fine with Colin and the rest taking care of you. No matter how hard it is, I will ascend to become your pride as soon as possible. I will not let others say that your first partner is a useless piece of trash. Be good, alright? Sandy knew that every time someone used Bode's level to make fun of her, Bode would feel sad in his heart. She knew that Bode was already working very hard, and she didn't think that being a second-level beast was something to be ashamed of. But Bode was a male. He had his pride that he had to protect. Sandy's throat couldn't speak. She could only hold Bode's hand and look deeply into his eyes. Bode had been partners with Sandy for many years. He could understand her intentions just by looking at her. He kissed her face. Don't worry. I will not let Joseph and his brothers lose their father. I will be back as soon as possible. Sandy finally nodded. But her gaze was still reluctant to part. Bode looked up at Gu Mingming. Great messenger, please tell me. Where should I go to find this person you mentioned? Gu Mingming replied. Zacharias, Peter. A place and a person's name didn't need any more words. Bode hugged Sandy tightly. He planted a heavy kiss on her forehead before leaving without looking back. Gu Mingming hugged Sandy. Don't worry. Qixin and Kanwu are there. Nothing will happen. Sandy smiled at Gu Mingming. She knew that Gu Mingming's arrangement was for her own good. It was also the best situation for Bode. Colin wasn't a threat to Boyd, but that didn't mean Hodgson and the others weren't. Wolf beasts were savage by nature. If you couldn't crush them in terms of strength, it would be very difficult for them to truly submit to you. Especially since Hodgson and the rest had partnered with her for the sake of the tribe, it was hard to guarantee that they would not have thoughts of eradicating and replacing Bode. Therefore Bode had to become stronger. After scolding Colin and making arrangements for Bode, Gu Mingming's gaze finally landed on Hodgson and Jerry. The two of them were still in a state of shock from Colin and Bode's scolding. When they met Gu Mingming's eyes out of the blue, they were startled and instinctively avoided her gaze. In a confrontation between wild beasts, the first to retreat would be the loser. Gu Mingming chuckled and said, Originally, I was here to congratulate you and Sandy for mating. But seeing you guys torturing my Sandy into such a miserable state, I really don't feel good about it. Chapter 1248. I am a very fair person. As Gu Mingming spoke, she placed Sandy's head down from her knees and even thoughtfully wrapped a piece of beast skin into a pillow to cushion Sandy's head. Then she patted her lightly before standing up. You guys have made my precious Sandy suffer, so I will make you guys suffer twice as much in order to appease your anger. Sandy shook her head. Hodgson and Jerry looked at each other, not understanding what Gu Mingming meant. Gu Mingming smiled and clapped her hands. She got into a fighting stance and said, I heard that both of you are at the peak of 3rd level and can level up after a fight. I, the Great Messenger, will personally be your sparring partner. You must be grateful. With that, Gu Mingming charged over and punched Hodgson in the stomach. At the same time she kicked Jerry in the chest. Gu Mingming did not unleash her beast pressure in consideration of Sandy's ability to withstand it. Moreover, she could not unleash her full power as a beast king. Moreover, it was just a small punishment and she was not really trying to buy someone's life, so Gu Mingming was merciful. How would the 2 wolf beasts dare to attack their own queen? Didn't they see the Wolf King sitting there staring at them with a kind and amiable smile? If they dared to misbehave, the Wolf King would pick them up and crush them into a pulp. Elvis's warning when they first arrived at Sodor was still ringing in their ears. The Wolf King would never show them any mercy when it came to the queen. Hence, the 2 warriors who had been in the limelight at the night campfire party and were still proud of themselves yesterday were beaten black and blue by Gu Mingming today. Gu Mingming only squatted beside them when they could no longer stand up. I took you back to protect and take care of Sandy. If you dare to use her as a tool to satisfy your lust, then you must be mentally prepared to bear the consequences. After all, the person standing behind Sandy is me, Gu Mingming. With that, Gu Mingming stood up. Because she had lowered her head, the sunlight cast a shadow over her. At 1.7 meters, she could only be considered a petite Lolita in the beast world. But at that moment they were black Lolitas. This time it's just a small punishment to warn you against future troubles. If I find out that you made Sandy suffer again, it won't end so easily. After Gu Mingming finished speaking, Hodgson and Jerry squeezed out some air from their lungs and answered shakily, Yes, we understand. Queen. Gu Mingming looked up with a face full of smiles. Facing the sunlight, she looked especially warm, as if she was not the one who had beaten up the 2 males without relying on her beast pressure. But even though she was smiling brightly, none of the 5 wolf beasts dared to belittle her. All of them were trembling with fear and did not dare to treat her as a little female protected by the Wolf King anymore. Gu Mingming stood in front of the 5 males who had yet to mate with Sandy and paced back and forth. She then smiled and said, Don't be afraid, although I am not a good person, I will not bully the weak. As long as you take good care of Sandy and treat her gently, I won't hit you for no reason. Don't worry, Queen, we will treat Sandy very well. The wolf beasts nodded repeatedly, not daring to be the slightest bit slow. Gu Mingming then sat down beside Sandy in satisfaction. She lifted Sandy's head and placed it on her lap, then asked, Where's the water? Chapter 1249. After Gu Mingming's ruckus, all the males in Sandy's family got along with each other. They no longer doubted why Bode would suck up to Gu Mingming the moment he saw her. They also no longer doubted why Colin would immediately admit defeat when Gu Mingming only glanced at him casually. Yeah, they had to learn from their seniors' experiences. Afterwards, Gu Mingming hugged Sandy and sang Dowry once again. This was what Gu Mingming had promised Sandy in the past. She would sing this song for her whenever she mated. As Bode and Colin were not around, Sandy's other old partner, Adali, could only lead the way. Even Hodgson and Jerry, who had been beaten up by Gu Mingming, were supported by others to stand in front of Gu Mingming. Then they bowed and said, Queen, thank you for not being a male. Gu Mingming smiled. She was already used to this kind of gratitude even from the initial awkwardness. Every male in Sandy's family would thank Gu Mingming for not being a male, because Leah had said that if Gu Mingming was a male, they would not even have a chance. Gu Mingming said a lot of things to Sandy unilaterally. Sandy clearly could not open her mouth to reply, but the 2 of them still communicated smoothly by nodding, shaking their heads, smiling and frowning. They chatted happily. When Colin returned with all his bags, he saw 2 of the 7 new wolf beasts sitting at the entrance of the cave on their last breaths, while the other 5 were eagerly waiting on Gu Mingming and Sandy. If Colin had watched court dramas before, he would have thought of an adjective, little eunuch. You're back. Gu Mingming felt refreshed after beating up Sandy. Her smile was much brighter when she greeted Colin. Colin did not hold a grudge against Gu Mingming for teaching him a lesson just now. He just gave her a silly smile and hurriedly mixed the honey into water. He brought out 2 cups, one for Sandy and one for Gu Mingming. Yes, Gu Mingming had a special cup at Sandy's house. After Colin returned, Gu Mingming then handed Sandy over to him to take care of. She then told him about Bode's situation before following Elvis back to the stone castle. Sandy's body needed at least half a month to recuperate. Moreover, there were still 5 wolf beasts waiting to mate with her. She probably would not have the time to take care of Dodgy and Kiera before the dry season ended. Meanwhile, Elvis and Leah were adamant that these two females must not be brought back to the stone castle. Hence, they could only let their respective fiancés take care of them. Hutta would often have a soft and cute little snow fox lying on his shoulder, docile and obedient. On top of Jiaoyu's head would lie a little lion. Its big eyes were intelligent, lively and adorable. The three factions had reached an unprecedented level of harmony because they had managed to rope in Hutta, Jiaoyu and Sandy respectively. They were unwilling to do anything that could break the alliance, and so the situation quickly turned in Hutta and Jiaoyu's favor. After listening to Li's analysis, Gu Mengmeng started to relax. She believed that she had always felt that Jiaoyu and Hutta could not handle it because of maternal love, and had treated them like children. After a few peaceful days, Elvis and Leah walked out of the stone castle alone one night. "Leah, you have to level up as soon as possible," Elvis said in a low voice. Chapter 1250. Elvis looked at Leah with a serious expression, forcing Leah to retract his playful smile. Frowning, he locked his long and narrow eyes on Elvis's face. "Is there anything you're planning that I don't know about?" Elvis sighed. "I know that becoming the Beast King will attract a pack of wolves and become an unmanageable problem, but I still want to be the Beast King. You really don't know what my motive is?" Leah was stunned for a moment, then he turned around. I don't know anything. And I won't level up, I'll just remain at the 4th level, enough to crush all the other males chasing after Mengmeng." Elvis grabbed onto Li's shoulder, stopping him from leaving. "It's because I can see that you've been slacking off after I became the Beast King, that's why I came to talk to you today. Preparing for a rainy day is your way of doing things. We can't afford another sudden blow." Leah bit his lips, glanced sideways at Elvis. "All right, I'll work hard to level up to the 5th level, then find the spirit of the Rocky Cliffs to activate the Beast King bloodline. But you have to promise me one thing, if Mengmeng really gets the 2nd tier of the Beast Deity one day, that tier of the Beast Deity will definitely be mine." Elvis pursed his lips, not saying a word, his jaw tightened into a straight line. Leah chuckled. "I won't level up if you don't promise me. You want to use yourself as an insurance, learn from Snake and sacrifice yourself to use the tier of the Beast Deity to prolong Mengmeng's life when Mengmeng is in danger, but you want me to stay behind to bear the consequences when you're the hero, ha, dream on? Let me tell you I won't agree." "Leah." Elvis frowned. Leah rarely said such irrational words. He was angry. Elvis could clearly feel the anger and uneasiness behind his smile. Leah slapped Elvis's hand away and said, "It's not like you don't know how upset Mengmeng was when Snake died. Let me tell you, I don't have the courage to face Mengmeng again. I don't want to see Mengmeng in such pain ever again. So, if you want to give Mengmeng an insurance policy so that she can live longer in case of an emergency, then I will be the insurance." With that, Leah poked Elvis's chest with his slender fingers and said word by word, "You're her first partner. You should be the one to shoulder the more difficult things. Let me, the beast pet, do the small matter of dying." Elvis nodded. "But the person Xiaomeng likes the most is you, and the person who knows how to make her happy is also you. If one of us has to die in exchange for her safety one day, then the one she likes more should be the one to stay alive, isn't that right?" Elvis smiled bitterly and said, "Moreover, didn't you always say that you regretted giving Xiaomeng to me back then, causing you to lose her one and only? If I die in the future you can have Xiaomeng all to yourself again. She has the strength of a Beast King now, so she doesn't need any more partners to protect her. You can be with her forever." Chapter 1251. Elvis clenched his fists and lowered his hands. He did not dare to ask. He was afraid that Xiaomeng would be put in a difficult position. He was afraid that Xiaomeng would admit or deny. He was even more afraid that Xiaomeng was so smart and could see through his intentions. She would know that he was trying his best to advance to Beast King so that he could use his own life to prolong hers when she was in danger again. He did not want to be helpless when she was on the brink of death again. But this was a selfish decision. Death was such an easy thing. The one who was forced to live was the one who would be tortured. Wasn't Snake's death already demonstrated once? Leah was right. He used himself as the golden elixir to save Gu Mengmeng and became a hero. But Leah, who stayed behind to comfort Gu Mengmeng, had to endure her unbearable pain. He was not afraid of death, but he was afraid of Gu Mengmeng's frown. Leah suddenly stopped in his tracks. He turned around and smiled at Elvis. You also know that I am a fox. Elvis was stunned for a moment. He did not quite understand what Leah meant. Leah placed an arm on Elvis's shoulder. He smiled slyly. It is in my nature to be sly. What should I do? I don't like things to develop in a direction that is not beneficial to me. Elvis held his forehead. Speak properly. Leah swayed his tail. He stood up straight. There are 2 ways. One, do as I say. I will work hard to advance to the peak of 5th level. Then we will look for the spirit of the rocky cliffs for me to activate the Beast King bloodline. If anything happens, let me be the 2nd tier of the beast deity. I will go in and wake Meng Meng up now. I will tell her your plan and let her teach you a lesson. Elvis hesitated but pretended to be calm. You said that it will only make Xiaomeng sad. You won't do anything that will make her sad, right? Leah shrugged. I'm not the one doing the things that will make her sad. If I don't report what I know, I will be treated as an accomplice. So you decide. Do you want us to work together and hide this matter? Or do you want me to be a traitor and betray her? Leah. Elvis felt rather helpless. Other than fighting, it was too difficult for him to win Leah. Leah flipped himself over and stood side by side with Elvis. His shoulders leaned against the wall and the moonlight elongated their shadows. He said calmly, if I also level up to become a Beast King, then there will be 3 Beast Kings in the entire beast world, all gathered in our house. Under such circumstances, if someone wants to hurt Xiaomeng, what do you think the probability of success is? Elvis understood that Leah was right. 1 Beast King was already invincible. If 3 Beast Kings worked together, no one in the beast world could hurt Gu Mengmeng in front of them. Even now, he had enough power to protect Gu Mengmeng and prevent anyone from hurting her. But the memory of the last time Gu Mengmeng was on her last breath and he could only kneel on the ground and cry blood was too clear. He was really afraid, so he suggested a foolproof solution. He did not want Leah to become the Beast King, not because he was afraid that Leah would shake his position after he became the Beast King, but because he knew that the success rate of activating the Beast King bloodline was only 30%. His success was largely due to luck. Chapter 1252. If you don't choose, I will go in and call Meng Meng. Leah said and was about to enter the house. I promise you. Elvis instinctively pulled Leah back, but the moment he said that, he gave a bitter laugh helplessly. I, the first partner, am still being led by the nose by you. Leah chuckled. That's because you know what I said is right and my strategy has always been the most comprehensive. Don't worry, Meng Meng is a female that I have spent a lot of effort to get back. Unless I have no other choice, I can't bear to abandon her to die. Elvis nodded. The best scenario is that the 2 of us can protect her forever and not let her get hurt. Leah nodded and said, all right, there's nothing else, right? If you are willing to stay here and admire the night view, you can continue. I am going in to hug my Meng Meng to sleep. Elvis chuckled and didn't reply. He just followed Leah back into the stone castle. Perhaps their worries were groundless, or maybe it was because Gu Mingming's near-death experience had such a huge impact on them that after experiencing the fear of losing her, they could no longer bear to see her get hurt or bleed. So if she had a nosebleed, they would almost go crazy. If she had a thorn in her hand, their hearts would ache for a long time. So before they found the love of the sky, they would never let her have children. Gu Mingming didn't know about the conversation between Elvis and Leah. The latter part of the dry season was busier. Sauter's tribe was now more than 10 times its original size, and the population was increasing exponentially. That well was still not enough to supply everyone with water. Eventually they could only collect water by family, with those with cubs taking priority. Sandy's family became the first family to collect water every day, because not only did they have cubs, they also had 2 female cubs under their name. Gu Mingming expressed that she had no objections, so naturally no one dared to say anything. As a result, Sandy's status in Sauter had unknowingly changed. Sandy herself did not realize it, but other than herself and Gu Mingming, everyone else's attitude towards Sandy had become more cautious and respectful. Just as Hada and Jiaoyu were busy with the matter of the water source, an unexpected visitor came to Sauter. This visitor who descended from the sky caused quite a commotion in Sauter because the aura he exuded was too sharp and did not fit in with the people around him. A sharp glint flashed past his eyes, making people want to retreat. This sharpness had nothing to do with his level. He clearly didn't release any beast pressure, but it was enough to make people tremble. Elvis looked lazily at the wild wolf who came to report and frowned. He turned to Leah and said, There are two beast kings here and there is still someone who dares to barge in alone. Leah stood up and patted the dust off his body. I'm afraid they don't have good intentions. You accompany Ming Ming, I'm going to meet the guest. As Leah had interacted with Elvis for a long time, he could understand the wolf's language. Hence, he did not need Elvis to translate for him to know what the wild wolf had said to him. Gu Ming Ming, on the other hand, was like an outsider as she stared at her two males speaking in riddles. She turned around and asked, "What's wrong? What kind of person was that? Stray beasts?" Chapter 1253. Leah narrowed his eyes and said, "Don't show such an expectant expression, your interest in other males makes me want to kill someone." Gu Ming Ming smiled and said, "All right, I was just wondering what guest made you so nervous." Leah smiled and said, "A male who might become my love rival, I have to be careful. All right, I'm going out." Gu Ming Ming did not take Lee's words seriously. After all, in Lee's eyes, any male could become his love rival. Even females could become his love rival. After Leah left, Gu Ming Ming leaned into Elvis's arms, wondering if she should make a detour to Zacharias before returning to St. Nazaire after the dry season ended. He was so worried about Qixin and Canwu. Especially Qixin. He had sent grapes to St. Nazaire last year, claiming to be some stray beast young master. Please don't get involved with Cole again. Elvis allowed Gu Ming Ming to lean against his chest, not feeling that there was anything wrong with it, instead feeling that this was the most complete position in his life. His slender fingers gently played with Gu Ming Ming's hair and said, "I will go with you wherever you want to go." Elvis did not say that if it was really that person, Gu Ming Ming would not be able to go to Zacharias or return to St. Nazaire. Gu Ming Ming's curiosity towards the sudden guest did not last long. The dry season was about to end and Gu Ming Ming was about to leave. Her two sons were busy dealing with all sorts of matters in the tribe, especially with the three factions fighting each other openly and covertly. It was a complete mess. Luckily, the two brothers worked well together, and although they could not handle things as easily as Leah, they could at least achieve a stable victory. Gu Ming Ming did not want to cause trouble for her sons, so she spent most of her time with Sandy. After all, their mating ceremony had already been completed and the two cute daughters-in-law were staying at Sandy's house, so there was nothing wrong with Gu Ming Ming visiting them often. Seeing that it was already noon and Leah would not be able to return in time to cook, Gu Ming Ming decided to just go to Sandy's house for a free meal. Although Bode was not around and Colin's culinary skills could not be compared to Lee's, but, in terms of cooking, who could be worse than Leah? The moment she stepped out, she was met with Oraton's face full of desire. Gu Ming Ming smiled helplessly. She did not even need to ask to know that this was a grudge from a foodie. "Leah is not at home today. I'm going to Sandy's for a free meal. Shall we go together?" Oraton shook his head and said expressionlessly, "A bird came and said it wanted to see you. Leah asked me to come over and ask if you want to see him." "Give me a bird." "What bird?" Gu Ming Ming found it strange. She could only recognize the Eagle Owl tribe because she could fly. If it was someone from the Eagle Owl tribe, it must mean that something had happened to St. Nazaire. In that case, Leah would not have asked her if she wanted to meet him. He should have directly brought him back. Oraton frowned and said, "A very annoying bird that can fly." Gu Ming Ming, "Nonsense. Let's go and take a look." If Gu Ming Ming wanted to get some useful information from a tiger who had not eaten and was in a bad mood, she might as well make the trip herself. Elvis chuckled and did not say a word. He just carried her out of the stone castle. There was a pack of wolves guarding the door and when they saw Elvis coming out they immediately followed him. Gu Ming Ming had to admit that Elvis really had a style after becoming the Beast King. Every time he went out, he would be like the owner of a kennel bringing a pack of huskies with him. Chapter 1254. The moment she entered the stone house, Gu Ming Ming felt that the atmosphere was not quite right. Leah and another person she did not know were standing face to face. That person was expressionless and had a cold demeanor. Even though they were wearing the same beast skin dress, he exuded an aura of abstinence, making one want to kneel down and shout, "Master, I am Xiao Gu." The feathers on both sides of his ears proved his identity. Yeah, he was a bird. Those feathers were different from those of the Eagle Owl tribe. They were dark gray with dark patterns. Gu Ming Ming could not recognize what bird feathers it was, so she could not determine which tribe he belonged to. But Lee's smile was so warm that Gu Ming Ming's hair stood on end. For Leah to smile like that, It was obvious that the birdman standing opposite him had made him very angry. Gu Mingming was placed on a stone chair by Elvis. Elvis stood quietly behind her to guard her, not saying a word. Seeing that Gu Mingming had returned, Leah also stood back and waved his tail. Mingming, let me introduce. This is the current leader of the renowned Vulture tribe, Gregory. Gu Mingming's eyes widened. Vulture tribe. She had fallen into an endless cycle of not being able to see the Vulture tribe if she did not ascend the mountain. She had been stuck in a dilemma for a long time, and now he had delivered himself to her doorstep. Damn it. You are the legendary messenger of the beast deity? Gregory sized up Gu Mingming with an unfriendly expression. Gu Mingming was taken aback by Gregory's attitude. Her father had clearly said that the Vulture tribe was the tribe closest to him, so she could show off her father's reputation. But this person in front of her did not seem to buy it. I am. Gu Mingming gave a simple reply. She decided to stay the same and see what the other party's intentions were. Gregory looked at Elvis and then at Leah. Finally, his gaze landed on Gu Mingming. There was not much expression on his face, but it was different from Oraton's poker face. He was really cold, so cold that even his gaze seemed to be covered in ice. It was bone-chilling. Tell me, why are you looking for me? Gregory asked. Gu Mingming was even more confused. Who was looking for you? That's not right. I was looking for him, but I couldn't find him. Isn't he the one who delivered himself to me? Gregory could tell that Gu Mingming was puzzled and became a little impatient. He took a deep breath, as if suppressing his desire to turn and leave. That mighty one sent a messenger to the Moda Mountains, so I came down the mountain to look for you. If you're not looking for me, then I'll take my leave. Wait. Gu Mingming probed. Who is that great lord? It couldn't be Cole again, right? Gregory looked at Gu Mingming, squinting his eyes in a probing manner. Are you really the messenger of the beast deity? Worth the price. Gu Mingming was very confident about this. Gregory did not agree and said, since you are the messenger of the beast deity, how would you not know who that lord is? Gu Mingming was at a loss for words. She really did not know who that lord was. Gregory's gaze landed on Elvis's chest. He frowned and said, you took something from his hands, but did not know that he asked me to look for you. That means he did not give it to you willingly, but you snatched it from him? Ha, to be able to snatch the heart of the desert from that lord, you are really capable. Heart of the desert? Gu Mingming instinctively looked at Elvis's chest, where the red spider lily was blooming. Chapter 1255. Wait a minute. Seeing Gregory turning to leave, Gu Mingming said, although I don't remember who that great lord you are talking about is, but I do have something to discuss with you. Since he helped me to pass the message, he should be in cahoots with me. Gregory turned back to look at Gu Mingming. What's the matter? I want the love of the sky. Gu Mingming straightforwardly stated her motive. Gregory looked at Gu Mingming for a long time. You can't go up to Moda Mountains. There was no hint of sarcasm or mockery. He was just stating the truth. So I need you to help me. Gu Mingming said. Gregory looked at Elvis and then at Leah. He shook his head. The peak of Moda Mountains is a sacred place for vultures. They can only bring their partners there to pray for blessings during mating. Other than that, no outsiders are allowed to enter. So, if you want to enter, you can only climb up yourself and defeat all the guards along the way. Gu Mingming was considering the feasibility of this plan when Gregory continued. But Moda Mountains are very steep. There are sharp rocks at the foot of the mountain. Based on your and your partner's abilities, you should be able to handle it. But starting from the middle of the mountain, it is a smooth cliff without any footholds. Unless you can stick to the mountain walls like a lizard, you will definitely not be able to continue climbing. Stick to the mountain walls like a lizard? Gu Mingming's brain was working furiously. She was trying to think of an alternative plan. But before she could come up with one, Gregory continued. Based on your wolf partner's abilities, he will need more than half a day to cross the middle of the mountain at his fastest speed. And if you want to climb up the mountain, a conservative estimate is that you will need to climb for 3 to 10 days. During this period, you will not have any food, water, or rest. You will also have to face the constant attacks from the birds guarding the mountain. If you slack off for even a moment and fall, the 10,000 blade stone knife at the foot of the mountain will kill you. 3 to 10 days without eating, drinking, sleeping, or resting. You will also have to face attacks and climb up the smooth cliff without any footholds. This was something that was simply impossible to achieve. Even if you manage to do it, the real test will only begin after you cross the middle of the mountain. Because the closer you get to the peak, the lower the temperature. The winter you usually spend on land is like a greenhouse compared to the climate on the mountaintop. Accompanied by the low temperature and howling winds, the snow is like countless sharp claws cutting into your body. One of your partners has the advantage in terms of strength, while the other has the advantage in terms of race, so they can probably last for 2 days. As for you, you don't have a hard and thick fur to resist the cold and wind, so you can only last for half a day at most before you freeze to death. Grace's emotions were calm throughout the entire process. He was like an expert deducing a mathematical formula. Every word he said was precise and professional, which was very convincing. Gu Mingming had the relevant psychological knowledge from Wang Xiaoxing. She could judge from Gregory's body language and micro-expressions that he was not exaggerating. Every word he said was the truth. So, even if the three of them risked their lives, they would not be able to ascend Moda Mountains. Was that what he meant? That's why I said I need your help, Gu Mingming said. Chapter 1256. I don't accept it either. Gu Mingming flared up. I just want you to bring me up the mountain. I am interested in the things on the mountain, but I have no interest in you. I said, the mountain peak is the holy land of vultures. We can only bring people other than our tribe members there to pray for blessings during mating. Since you and I have no intention of becoming partners, I naturally can't bring you up. Why are you so stubborn? Gu Mingming asked. Who bestowed that holy land? The previous messenger of the beast deity? Who bestowed it? This question stumped Gregory. Ever since he was born, he had been guarding the peak of the Moda Mountains, facing the harsh weather. The sacred land had always been a sacred land, but no one had ever told him why it was a sacred land, and when did it become a sacred land. But that was not important. It was an indisputable fact that the vulture tribe had been guarding that place for generations. Rules were rules and they had to be obeyed. As the leader of the vulture tribe, he could not simply break the rules. If it was a rule set by the previous messenger of the beast deity, then I should be able to abolish it, right? After all, we are of the same rank. She is a messenger and so am I. If my rank is not high enough, how about I ask the beast deity? After all, the vulture tribe is the most loyal protector of the beast deity. What if the beast deity gives the order? Can I abolish your stupid rules? Gu Mingming thought to herself, as a second-generation deity, when else would she be able to fool her father? Gregory was unmoved. He stood his ground and said, this is the rule of the vulture tribe. Even the messenger cannot force others against their will. If the beast deity insists on breaking our rules, then when loyalty cannot be served at the same time, we can only sacrifice our entire tribe to uphold our will. We will not defy our tribe rules or betray the beast deity. Gu Mingming's mind was only filled with the word, inflexible. But Gregory's tone was not a threat, but a statement. This made Gu Mingming know clearly that if she were to use her father's name to pressure him, Gregory would really choose to die in glory than to live in dishonor. Damn it, if the vulture tribe died out because of this, she could forget about ever obtaining the love of the sky. Rolling her eyes, Gu Mingming asked again, why don't you get someone from the vulture tribe to talk to me? Only the clan leader of the vulture race can descend the mountain when he receives instructions from that lord. Gregory's gaze swept across Elvis's chest, then he said, now that the great lord is probably no longer around, so after I return this time, there shouldn't be any vultures coming down from the mountain anymore. Damn it, who was that lord? What if that lord asked you to bring me up? Are you willing? Gu Mingming tested. Gregory coldly snorted and said, you don't even know who that lord is, yet you want to use such ridiculous words to scare me? Chapter 1257. Gregory furrowed his brows, seemingly unwilling to do so. He didn't like fighting with land beasts. They were crude, barbaric and filthy. The smell on their bodies was unbearable. Although this messenger of the beast deity looked pretty nice, he didn't know why he didn't like her. He had a feeling of resistance towards her. But since that great lord had already given the order, he couldn't reject it. She then looked at the red spider lily on Elvis's chest. Since this is the final order from that great lord, I will definitely obey. I will give you a month's time. If you don't have a reason to convince me after a month, I will fly straight back to Moda Mountains. With that, Gregory turned and left the meeting room, flapping his wings and flying off. Gu Mingming face-bombed, speechless. After coming to the beast world, she had seen a lot of the world. She even felt that she could handle a pervert like Cole. But this Gregory was stubborn and unmoved by force or persuasion. Turning to look at Leah, Gu Mingming asked, "Leah, can't we not have the love of the sky?" "Of course we can." Leah chuckled and kissed Gu Mingming's forehead. "I only need you. I don't need little foxes." Damn it. Did he mean that without the love of the sky to protect her from the pain of childbirth, he wouldn't let her get pregnant? Gu Mingming rubbed her chin and thought for a moment. Why not try the 7-word mantra? She wrinkled her nose and was about to cry when Leah wrapped his arms around her waist and pulled her into his arms. "You know I can't do anything about your tears. So if you want to cry, I will definitely give in. Actually, it's nothing much. At most, I will be on tenterhooks when you're pregnant. When you're giving birth, I won't be able to bear the heartache and die." With that, Leah pressed his lips against Gu Mingming's and lingered for a long time by her lips, asking in a hoarse voice, "So, if you want to torture me with your tears because of that nest of little foxes, come on, the torture you give me, even if I'm crushed into pieces, even if I'm consigned to eternal damnation, I'm willing to endure it as sweet as syrup." Gu Mingming waved her hands in defeat. Who's going to cry? Umph. With that, Gu Mingming struggled out of Lee's arms and hung onto Elvis's chest. They left the meeting room and returned to the stone castle. Leah shook his head and said helplessly, "You're scolding me again? Last time that humph lasted for several days." She didn't speak properly, nor did she eat well. All kinds of cold violence. Forget it, it was better to torment him than to torment herself. As long as she was fine, he could endure any grievances. When Gu Mingming returned to the stone castle, Sandy, Hutta and Jiaoyu were all there. "I saw that you didn't go to my place today, so I came to find you." Sandy saw that Gu Mingming had returned and went forward to hold her little hand, saying, "I heard that a member of the birds tribe came to the tribe today and specifically asked to see you. What kind of person was that? Did he cause you any trouble?" Chapter 1258. "Then why don't you let Ian bring you there?" Sandy was puzzled. Gu Mingming rolled her eyes. Speechless and full of disdain, she said, "It's all because of that pervert Gregory." Gu Mingming took a deep breath and said, "Initially I wanted Ian to bring me there, but he told me that leaving the Moda Mountains was a betrayal. If I went any closer to the Moda Mountains, I would be attacked by the other birds guarding the mountains. They would not rest until they were dead. And the leader of the Moda Mountains is Gregory from the vulture tribe. Do you think there's something wrong with his brain? I already said that I can ask the beast deity to abolish that whatever tribe rule, so that they don't have to endure so much hardship guarding the mountains." Not only did he not appreciate my kindness, he even said that if the beast deity forcefully interfered, their entire tribe would be sacrificed to ensure both loyalty and justice. Sandy had always been on the same side as Gu Mingming and could not bear to see anyone making her angry. Looking at Gu Mingming's seething anger, Sandy also chimed in, "Isn't he just a third-level birdman? What's there to be so arrogant about? How about this? I'll ask Colin to bring Hodgson and Jerry to tie him up and beat him up until he's willing to bring you up obediently, all right?" Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "If force works, I'll beat him up myself. The point is that if I go up into the sky, I'll be handing my life over to him. If he wants to play any tricks, he just needs to let go in the sky and I'll be finished. So he must be the one who willingly brings me up." Sandy thought about it and agreed. Even if he was scared of being beaten up and agreed to bring Gu Mingming up, what if he took revenge in the sky? By then, no one would be able to protect Gu Mingming. It was too risky. This would not do. Why not, you mate with him? There's nothing wrong with having one more partner. The moment she said that, the temperature in the room dropped by 8 degrees. Elvis's and Lee's faces turned darker than a millstone. What if Gu Mingming really took in that birdman just to give birth to a nest of little foxes? In front of Wings, Elvis and Leah had no advantage at all. Would they be able to compete for his favor in the future? That guy didn't look weak. After mating, he should be able to reach level 4 or even level 5 immediately. So when he found the spirit of the Rocky Cliffs in the future, should he activate the bloodline of the Beast King? Elvis and Lee's thoughts had already flown to the horizon, but Gu Mingming could not be bothered with them. She just pouted and shook her head, saying, "He doesn't like me and I don't like him either." "He dares to look down on you?" Sandy immediately exploded upon hearing that. She dropped the table and stood up. "You're Gu Mengmeng." She was the best female in the entire beast world. He was just a birdman, why wouldn't he like her? Was he blind? No, this can't be tolerated, absolutely cannot be tolerated. Where was that birdman now? I want to reason with him. Gu Mingming wrapped her arms around Sandy's waist and hung onto her like she had no bones. With a wronged look, she said, "I just know that only my baby Sandy knows how good I am." Yeah, you're enough. The others have no taste and don't know what's good for them, we won't argue with them. Chapter 1259. Jiaoyu sat beside Leah and poked him with his elbow. "Are you just going to watch my mother fret?" Leah sighed in exasperation. "That Gregory is too defensive. Moreover, it's our first encounter today. He's so secretive that I can't figure out his background. We were completely led by the nose in the first round." But Jiaoyu didn't believe him. He raised his brows. "Everyone has a weakness. No matter how strong he is, he can't be so secretive. Your mother has fought for a month's time. We have to properly meet this vulture tribe leader in this month." Leah patted Hutta and Jiaoyu's shoulders. "You are guests from afar. You two must not forget Sauter's etiquette." "Understood." Hutta chuckled. Jiaoyu teased Kiera. "Let me say this first. I'm just trying to find a way out for my younger brothers and sisters. I'm not doing this for you." Leah knocked on Jiaoyu's head and said, "You will beg me one day in the future." Definitely." Jiaoyu smiled. "But you can't reject me when I beg you. Right, Daddy Leah?" Jiaoyu smiled. Daddy Leah sounded sweet and gentle. He looked at Leah with eyes that were 90% similar to Gu Mingming's. Lee's heart tightened. He covered Jiaoyu's eyes and pushed him to the side. Clenching his teeth, he said, "Yes." Jiaoyu stood up and patted his butt. He reiterated, "Everything I'm doing is to find a way out for my younger brothers and sisters. It's not because of you." "Got it." Leah clenched his teeth. Jiaoyu's repeated emphasis was clearly telling him to remember this little demon's favor. Sigh, what else could he do but continue spoiling the little wolf pups he had taught? Who asked him to be so helpless against those eyes? Jiaoyu and Hutta walked to the door and bade farewell to Gu Mingming and Sandy, who were sitting at the door and complaining crazily. Jiaoyu said that the family of a few female wolf beasts had come to the tribe, and they were different from normal male wolf beasts. The females had to be properly settled down, and in addition, the tribe had to stock up on food since the rainy season had started, so they were quite busy and could not chat with Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming's heart ached that her sons were too tired, so she asked them to go back to work first. When Leah was done with dinner, she would send it over to them. The two sons agreed sensibly and obediently. Jiaoyu couldn't help but say a few more teasing words to Gu Mingming before they left. On the other hand, Leah instructed Oraton to rush back to St. Nazir and call Ian over. Oraton left in a hurry after reporting to Gu Mingming. There was no other reason other than Leah was in charge of cooking and Oraton definitely did not want to offend him. Meanwhile, Gu Mingming and Sandy were in a much better mood after complaining for a long time. The two females discussed many unreliable but extremely satisfying methods. Gu Mingming knew that these methods would not be put into practice, but just discussing them was enough to make her feel better. To be honest, other than Elvis, this Gregory was the most arrogant person Gu Mingming had ever met. She felt inexplicably displeased. She really wanted to shatter that expression of abstinence on his face and watch him kneel down and beg for mercy. Chapter 1260. Li's words always made sense, so Gu Mingming gladly accepted Li's suggestion. So in the following 3 days, Gu Mingming had nothing to do. Instead, Leah and Jiaoyu were secretly whispering to each other. Morse code. On the 4th day, Leah returned to the stone castle with a smile on his face. The moment he entered, he opened his arms wide, waiting for Gu Mingming to throw herself into his arms. Gu Mingming didn't know what Leah was up to, but still threw herself into his arms, giving him a welcome home hug. Leah stroked Gu Mingming's little head. I have neglected you these 3 days. Did you miss me? Gu Mingming chuckled. Although Leah was a little busy, he did not neglect her. No matter how busy he was, he would always come back to prepare 3 meals a day. If he could solve a problem outside the stone castle, he would never go outside. At most, he would go to the meeting room when he was plotting something with Jianghu. The so-called neglect probably meant that he did not stick to her 24/7. Heartless. Leah pinched Gu Mingming's little face and grumbled, I miss you to death every second we're apart, but you don't even care if I'm not by your side. Am I still your most beloved partner? Mm. Gu Mingming's smile widened. She felt extremely helpless. Li's tone was like a concubine who had been wronged. Gu Mingming felt that she should lift his chin and say something along the lines of, Come, I will love you dearly tonight. This Gregory has not even married into the family and I have already fallen out of favor. If you really accept him in the future, will there still be a place for me in this family? Gu Mingming's face froze. She looked at Leah. What has this got to do with Gregory? I don't like that old cadre at all. Gu Mingming knew that she did not have any masochistic tendencies. With Leah and Elvis, gentle and considerate partners who coaxed her in everything, why should she like that ice block who looked down on her? Moreover, she had said long ago that having two partners had already crossed her bottom line. She would never have a third one. Seeing Gu Mingming's look of disdain, Li's mood became much better. He carried Gu Mingming up and walked to Elvis's side to place her back into his arms. He leaned on her knees and said, Jianghu, that fellow is very capable, he managed to get quite a lot of information from that bird man. Gu Mingming had always known that Jianghu was quick-witted, but she did not expect that even Leah would be led around by the nose by Jianghu. Her interest was instantly piqued. What did you get out of him? Tell me? Leah swayed his tail lazily and Gu Mingming instinctively reached out to scoop him up. She hugged his white and furry large tail in her arms and stroked it back and forth. Leah felt extremely comfortable from her touch. He squinted his eyes and said, The vulture tribe is the same as the snow fox tribe, they are the followers of the messenger of the beast deity. The only difference was that Sauter was in control of all land beasts. The vultures are in the dark, hidden in the Mota Mountains, leading all the birds to protect the sacred relic. From what Gregory said, the sacred relic that they are protecting is not only the love of the sky but also something else. However, Jianghu did not dare to ask further, because if he asked too deeply, Gregory would definitely sense it. Once he is on his guard, it would be difficult to pry his mouth open. Chapter 1261. Leah continued, All birds are not allowed to leave the Mota Mountains. Did you think of anything? Think of what? Gu Mingming looked at Leah blankly and shook her head. Leah smiled and said, They say it is to protect the sacred object, but don't you feel that it is more like a form of imprisonment? She thought about what Ian had said. The living conditions were terrible but they were not allowed to leave. Once they left, they would be considered a traitor and a disgrace. If they returned, they would be attacked and killed by all the birds. This was not only inhumane, it was also a life imprisonment. Moreover, it was a hereditary system and their descendants would be trapped in the Mota Mountains forever. If it was just to protect something, they could just bring it along and guard another mountain. Why did they have to guard the Mota Mountains with the terrible weather? In that case, besides the love of the sky, they are also guarding the Mota Mountains? Gu Mingming raised her suspicions. Leah nodded in agreement and said, So, they do not allow any birds to move out because they are afraid that the news will be leaked out and people will guess. Even Ian kept his mouth shut about what happened in Mota Mountains after he migrated out. If not for the fact that I had coincidentally asked him about the love of the sky, he would definitely have brought this secret to his grave and never mentioned a word about it until his death. From this point of view, flying beasts were indeed more trustworthy than land beasts. After all, once land beasts mate, their partners are the most important and they can do anything for their partners. Look at me and Elvis, we are the best examples. Gu Mingming chuckled and said, Yes, you two are the best. I must have saved the Milky Way in my previous life to be able to meet you two in this life. With that, Gu Mingming kissed Leah and Elvis on their cheeks. It felt like she was comforting a child, but the two males enjoyed it very much. Leah swayed his tail and looked at Elvis. He said, Mighty Wolf King, looks like we have to add another task to our journey. Elvis asked. Leah said, In order to meet Gu Mingming again in our next life, let's go save the Milky Way this time. If he doesn't need to be saved, I will appear and cripple him, then you can come and chase me away. How about that? All right. Elvis's reply was simple and clean. Leah turned to look at Gu Mingming and asked, So Gu Mingming, who is the Milky Way? Where is he? Ah. Are you two trying to laugh me to death and then inherit my inheritance? Leah looked at Gu Mingming's smiling face, his eyes filled with gentleness. After laughing with Gu Mengmeng for a while, Leah continued. But Mengmeng, do you know how the leader of the vulture tribe is chosen? Gu Mengmeng replied without thinking, probably from fighting? Whoever is more powerful will be the clan leader. Wasn't it the same in the beast world? Leah shook his head and smiled faintly. No, whoever can sense the signal sent by the messenger of that great lord will be qualified to be the tribe leader. It's that lord again. Who is that lord? Gu Mengmeng frowned. Her instincts told her that she should know that great lord. After all, Gregory had sworn that that great lord was guarding the heart of the desert. Now that she had obtained the heart of the desert, it proved that she had at least seen that great lord before. Chapter 1262. So I should still go see my father and ask him who that mighty person is? Gu Mengmeng came to this conclusion. But Leah shook his head and said, the main point is not who that mighty person is, but the agreement between the vulture tribe and that mighty person. Gu Mengmeng had a hunch that this agreement had something to do with them obtaining the love of the sky, so she stared at Leah with sparkling eyes. But Leah suddenly changed the topic and said proudly, but I am not in the mood to say it now. Don't say things halfway, you will make me anxious to death. Gu Mengmeng shook Lee's shoulders and grumbled shamelessly. Leah was dizzy from her shaking, but he pursed his lips and didn't say a single word. Hubby, Gu Mengmeng's voice trilled 8 times at the end, making Lee's bones melt. He snickered and rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head, saying as if he was at a loss of what to do with her, then let me ask you first, between the love of the sky and Elvis, who is more important? Gu Mengmeng didn't even think before answering, Elvis is more important. Leah nodded. Although he hid it well, a trace of disappointment still flashed across his eyes. The love of the sky represented their child. The little fox she yearned for so much was not worth mentioning in front of Elvis. She gave it up without a trace of hesitation. Leah looked up at Elvis, using his eyes to say, now, you still dare to say that I am the one she likes the most? It doesn't matter even if you die, can she still live on? Elvis didn't answer and just stared at Gu Mengmeng with a loving gaze. His eyes were filled with the bliss of dying without regrets. Gu Mengmeng didn't know the contents of Elvis and Lee's conversation that night, and also didn't know what kind of feelings her answer had given to the two males. She just continued to ask, why? Is there any conflicting relationship between the love of the sky and the heart of the desert? If I obtain the love of the sky, will Elvis, who owns the heart of the desert, die? That's not it. The speed at which Leah sorted out his emotions was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he was all smiles again. He looked at Elvis ambiguously and stretched out his slender fingers to draw circles on the red spider lily mark on Elvis's chest without saying a word. Elvis had goosebumps all over his body as he scolded coldly, "Scram!" Leah lifted his head and gave a provocative smile. Not only did he not move his hand away, he even placed his entire palm on Elvis's chest without any scruples. He even squeezed it impudently and said, "No." A thick mark appeared on Elvis's forehead and he gritted his teeth. Don't do anything that will make Xiaomeng's imagination run wild. She will have a nosebleed again later. Once she said that, Leah immediately retracted his hand as if he had been electrocuted. He then looked at Gu Mengmeng in fear and heaved a sigh of relief when he saw her calm expression. Ever since Elvis and Leah got drunk last winter, Gu Mengmeng had joked about their relationship until Elvis wanted to kill Leah and commit suicide to atone for his sins. Gu Mengmeng's Fujoshi heart was completely strangled in the cradle and she did not dare to fantasize about those scenes anymore. Seeing the tense atmosphere between Leah and Elvis, Gu Mengmeng pushed Lee's claws away from Elvis's chest and said, "Be serious." Chapter 1263. How should she put it? Gu Mengmeng suddenly felt a chill run down her spine. Laughing dryly, she asked, What marriage?" Leah glanced at Elvis but smiled without saying a word. Elvis's tail bristled from Lee's laughter and he ground his teeth loudly. Leah said leisurely, "In the vulture tribe only the tribe leader can mate with outsiders, so only the tribe leader can sense the signal sent by that great lord, and descend the mountain. Then, Leah said slowly. "Don't laugh, I'm so scared." Gu Mengmeng rubbed her arms and stared at Leah with widened eyes. "Finish your sentence properly." Leah rubbed his own face and said, "Are you panicking?" Don't you like to see me laugh the most? Mm. Gu Mingming held Li's shoulders with both hands. Please don't stop in the middle. Finish your sentence properly. Leah pointed at his face. Give me the encouragement of love and I will continue. Gu Mingming pressed her lips against his without another word. But Leah turned his head in an instant and pressed his lips against hers accurately. A smile bloomed from the corners of his eyes. Li's hand threaded through Gu Mingming's black hair and he gently rubbed her head. They were clearly an old married couple, but Gu Mingming's heart was still stirred by Li's sudden touch. Blushing, she took a step back and fell into Elvis's arms. Leah then continued. I heard that the betrothal partner is the one who inherited the heart of the desert. When that great lord's messenger reaches the Mota Mountains to inform the Vulture tribe, the Vulture tribe leader will fly down from the mountain peak to fulfill the betrothal. But Li's gaze landed on Elvis's chest again. He couldn't help but laugh so hard that his shoulders shook. Gu Mingming's brain froze for a few seconds. She hugged Elvis with both hands like a child protecting her beloved toy. She shook her head furiously. No, I don't want the love of the sky anymore. If that bird dares to snatch my hubby away, I will stew him. Elvis was almost suffocated by Gu Mingming's strangulation, but he smiled blissfully like a foolish son of a landlord. He completely lost the imposing manner and prestige of a wolf king. Leah was originally trying to hold back his laughter, but after Gu Mingming's tantrum, he simply laughed out loud. The laughter from the stone castle reverberated in the sky above Sauter and the entire sky seemed to have become brighter. After calming down, Gu Mingming nestled in Elvis's arms with a worried face and said, No wonder that fellow's eyes kept glancing at Elvis's chest. My hubby must have been molested by someone's eyes, right? I should have gouged out his eyes. I'm so jealous. Leah wagged his tail and said, Hey Xiao Mingming, if others look at me like this, will you dig your eyes out too? Dig. Gu Mingming said firmly, I will dig out the eyes of whoever dares to rape my man. Leah and Elvis could not help but chuckle. Xiaoming's jealous look was really cute. Chapter 1264. Gu Mingming bit her fingers while shaking her feet. Her brain was in a frenzy. She had to get the love of the sky or Leah would not let her give birth to little foxes. She could not hand Elvis over. Damn it, she could not hand him over even if she died. She could not sell her husband no matter what. So she still had to start from Gregory. Weakness, what exactly was his weakness? Modern men were easy to guess. Wealth, power and women. Any man could not escape from these three. To put it proudly, in the beast world, Gu Mingming herself was already the most powerful woman? But what did he say? He said he did not fancy her. Power? Mota Mountains was beyond the rules of the beast world and Gregory was the leader there. He probably had the highest power. Seeing how he despised land beasts and did not seem to want to be the leader here, even if Gu Mingming gave him the official title of the messenger of the beast deity, he would not even take a second look. Then, what about wealth? Gu Mingming scratched her head. He was just a damn bird, why would he need wealth? Heavens, could he give me Lei Jinzi's thunder god hammer? Maybe even Birdman like that thing. Gu Mingming felt like she was going crazy. Raising her head, Gu Mingming looked at Leah with a pitiful gaze. I am indeed not suitable to think about people. What should I do? I want the love of the sky but I don't want to hand Elvis over. Leah, can you think of a way? Leah smiled in satisfaction but shook his head. He knelt down on one knee and hooked Gu Mingming's chin with his finger. No, my dear Gu Mingming. You should say, Leah, think of a way. Don't you know that? If it is your order, I will definitely execute it. Just like how he would rather be injured or even die than to level up at the third level. At the crucial moment of that battle, it was Gu Mingming who ordered him not to be injured. So he agreed with a smile and broke through to the third level. If it was her order, even if it did not match his own plans, he would still execute it. But ever since that time, Gu Mingming never spoke to him in a commanding tone. Actually, he was very disappointed. He had been waiting for her to trust him and rely on him. She would no longer think of solving problems by herself, but instead lay lazily in Elvis's arms, casually throwing troublesome matters to him and ordering him to solve them. Only then would he feel that he was needed, and only then would life have meaning. Facing Li's urgent gaze, Gu Mingming said softly, Yeah, I want the love of the sky, but I don't want to give Elvis to him. Leah, go and think of a solution. Li's smile was very blissful, even more dazzling than the warm sun in March. He held Gu Mingming's little hand and kissed the back of it. As you wish, my queen. That night Ian and Oriton arrived at Sodor together. For the first time, Leah did not return to the stone castle for the night and instead had a secret discussion with Ian, Jianghu, Hudda and Oriton in the meeting room for the entire night. They analyzed all the known information and came up with a meticulous plan step by step. Like a net that was about to catch a bird, they slowly spread it out unknowingly and wanted to trap Gregory within a month. Manipulating people's hearts. Chapter 1265. Leah said that all humans would have greed. And this greed would become a chain strangling his throat. The other end would be in the hands of an outsider, and he would naturally become a stray dog. He had schemed against the messenger of the beast deity in the past, but he did not know that the messenger of the beast deity was Gu Mingming. He had paid a heavy price for it, and after that he no longer dared to look down on all living things from the perspective of God, to arrange other people's destinies, and to plot the path of others' lives. It was really a long time before he returned to his old profession. The next day Gregory was invited to the stone castle. He was especially cautious the moment he entered and was always on guard. But from start to end, Gu Mingming's family did not mention anything about the Moda Mountains. They only talked about the interesting things in their lives, some trivial and scattered, and completely in the style of daily life. There was not a single bit of probing or attacking content. During the meal, Leah greeted Gregory warmly, telling him that he must try his best dishes. Gregory was not used to such warmth, but could not reject it, so he could only accept. After living like this for more than 10 days, Gregory had gradually relaxed his vigilance. He had even developed the same habit as Oriton. Every morning he would fly out and bring back some bird eggs and flying beasts. Then he would head straight to the stone castle to share a meal. Oriton was especially friendly towards Gregory because it was actually very difficult for land orcs to hunt for birds. Even if they managed to catch them, they were either too young or too old. On the other hand, Gregory could always bring back plump and juicy birds that were in the prime of their lives. Ian had already arrived at Sodor for many days, but strangely he did not show himself. Gu Mingming occasionally asked about Leah, but he always changed the topic. Gu Mingming then understood that Leah had his own plans, so she did not bring it up again. Half a month had passed, and Sodor welcomed another batch of uninvited guests. Elvis felt the restlessness of the wolf pack and could not help but frown. I will go out to take a look. Gu Mingming's expression was also unfriendly. She shook her head and said, let's go together. The originally lively scene instantly turned cold because of Elvis and Gu Mingming's expressions. Lee's smile did not diminish, but there was a hint of malice in it. He followed behind Elvis, not saying a word. Oriton had a poker face to begin with. His expression didn't change, but his body was emitting the aura of battle. Gregory subconsciously became vigilant, his muscles tensed up as he followed behind them. He didn't even think about what a battle between land beasts had to do with him. Why did he want to get involved? He just followed Gu Mingming and the rest out as if it was a matter of course. The wolf pack would follow Elvis closely the moment he left the vicinity of the stone castle. As a result, what was originally a family trip suddenly became a grand sight. The wolf beasts in the tribe all sensed Elvis's aura and followed him. The snow fox tribesmen did not want to be left behind and also joined in, following behind Leah. The people from the 16 tribes did not know what was going on but also followed. So, when everyone appeared at the border of Sodor, the scene looked like a huge army pressing down on the border, ready to invade the world. There were 7 to 8 orcs standing at the edge of the tribe. They were so frightened by this scene that their stomachs and legs were cramping. They said while trembling, Sir Messenger. It was the young master who asked us to deliver grapes. Chapter 1266. That orc shook his head. Originally, there were more than 20 stray beasts carrying the grapes over. But for some reason they suddenly screamed and ran off. Gu Mingming chuckled and did not say a word. Thinking about how afraid Wabi was of her, it was not hard to guess why the stray beasts had fled. Gu Mingming scanned the surroundings coldly. Not a single stray beast's aura could be sensed. She then retracted her cold aura and said, You guys follow me back to Sodor for a rest today. We'll set off for Zacharias tomorrow. Tell Qixin not to let stray beasts deliver grapes in the future. Yes, great messenger. The orc who had delivered the grapes nodded and went back to pick up the huge stone basins containing the grapes. Elvis signaled with his eyes, and the wild wolves all stepped forward to do the work of carrying the grapes. Carrying the basins of grapes on their backs, they followed Gu Mengmeng and the rest back. They had come in a threatening manner, but when they returned, it was more like a joyful and relaxed company outing. They did not head back to the tribe but headed in another direction. There was a small stream there, where Elvis had previously brought Gu Mengmeng to wash her nose. They had almost settled down there. When they arrived at the stream, Elvis and Leah, who had seen Gu Mengmeng wash the grapes last year, personally went into the water. After all, Fei Rui was not around, so they could not use the three-wheeled washing machine to wash the grapes. They could only rely on their own hands to wash the grapes. Fortunately, there were enough people following them out, so it saved them a lot of time. Gu Mengmeng removed her beast skin boots and soaked her feet in the stream. She sat on a rock and kicked the water for fun. Gregory stood beside her, looking down at her from behind. How should he put it? Her coldly commanding the army in Elvis's arms was too eye-catching. Even if there was a stronger beast king standing beside her, her brilliance could not be overshadowed. She was clearly a petite and soft body, but it contained an energy that no one could ignore. It was as if she was the true owner of this world, looking down on all living things from a bird's-eye view. Gregory had a momentary illusion that Gu Mengmeng was a glowing person, dazzling but unable to shift his eyes away. At that moment, his brain could not make any sense of judgment. Apart from her face, he could not see anything else. After spending more than 10 days together, Gu Mengmeng had always been a warm and radiant image. Even though he knew that she had a huge amount of energy, he had never sensed a hint of danger from her. But just now, she just slightly furrowed her brows, and the murderous aura from her whole body shocked the entire 9 regions. It made people shudder with fear, but at the same time, it also made them inexplicably excited. But now, she was kicking the water with her bare feet, smiling like a child. "Grace, do you want some?" Gu Mengmeng turned around and plucked one grape from the bunch of grapes that Leah had washed for her. She extended her arm and passed it to Gregory, who was standing behind her. She turned around and realized that he was in a daze. She could not help but smile and say, "Hey, you came back to your senses." Gregory cleared his throat awkwardly and turned his face to the side, but he could not shift his gaze away from Gu Mengmeng's smiling face. He took the grapes from her hands and said with a hoarse voice, Thank you." "You're welcome." Gu Mengmeng did not say anything else. She turned around and continued eating her grapes, completely not bothered by Gregory's distracted state just now. Gregory placed the grape into his mouth and licked it lightly. The juice flowed everywhere, filling his mouth with a fragrant sweetness. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.